She was living in a single room with 3 other individuals. One of them was a male, and the other 2, well, the other 2 were females. God only knows what they were up to in there. And furthermore, Susan, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to learn that all 4 of them habitually smoke marijuana cigarettes. Reefers.
Go to school, the teacher wanna fuck the students. Go to church, my preacher turned to prostitution. The prosecution never read my files. That evil ass judge fell asleep at my trial. This shit is wild. Chickens getting sick as the cows. Birds falling out the sky, fish dying in piles. It's fishy. Politicians smell like my bowels. Talking that shit, really cramping my styles. I got many. Now I'm pinching pennies, no doubt. I squeezed Lincoln so hard, a fucking booger came out. It's a shame. I used to be on top of my game. They took the shirt off my back and replaced it with chains. I met Mr. Lee Harvey from the Tea Party. He used to hate Obama till he felt Hurricane Charlie looking for his FEMA check. It's gone with the wind. When them dicks is in, you know the fix is in. For my birthday, buy me a politician. It's a shame that you got to teach the children. Everything's corrupt, everything's fucked up, everything's bout to fuck me shit out of luck. For my birthday, buy me a politician. It's a shame that you got to teach the children. Everything's corrupt, everything's fucked up, everything's bout to fuck me shit out of luck. Everything's a scam. Beat the next man is capitalism. They'll just build a new prison for you slick ass niggas that's trying to beat the system. Put you on the front line if you ain't re-enlisting. It's hot in Hell's Kitchen. Get ready for the lynch and brainwash media.
No, I can hear me. Is your mic on?
It got
There you
switched
go.
off.
You got to turn the mic on, dummy.
I did before the show started, and then this didn't work.
Jesus must have came in.
Yes, it was all Jesus' fault. We are back. Episode 23 in the rotation. Indiana Man.
Indiana Man. There's a good story. I wish there was more people here to tell the Indiana Man story, but
yeah,
live and learn.
Yeah, it's on an obscure IWA Mid-South DVD somewhere from a Plainfield show where we decided that Indiana Kid Jr.'s father went by the name Indiana Man.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right, I mean, why wouldn't it?
And we thought it was really
kid.
funny, and it probably isn't that funny, but now if you were listening to an old IWA deal, and you were sitting there and it popped in, now you chuckle.
Sure. This is In the Rotation. You are listening to us. If you are listening to us live, you are listening on Spreaker.com. You can catch us every Tuesday at 8 p.m. right here on Spreaker.com. Search ITR Live. If you are listening in syndication, you might be listening on the RIP Radio Network. You can hear us every Wednesday at noon Central and then replay it again at 10 o'clock at night Central Time on the RIP Radio Network. You can get that on the TuneIn Radio app, which is fucking awesome. We've been putting it over every week.
The world's radio.
Yeah, you really get to hear everything there, and it's definitely worth checking out. That's my headphones.
Yeah, I'm just saying for the cracking, instead of turning our volume down, just turn headphones on.
But I did hear that it does not translate on
it does
the air,
not.
so I feel much better about it.
We're definitely straight with that whole thing.
But the RIP Radio Network, you can check us there every Wednesday at I believe it's 8 p.m. Central Time. You can check us out on the Party Animal Radio Network, partyanimalradio.com. And then, of course, to support the show and spread the word, one thing we do want you to do is support our sponsors. Our 2 sponsors are Death Grip Clothing. You can check them out at deathgripclothing.com. And then, of course, Two Fat Guys Barbecue Sauces. I love twofatguys.com. Guys, if you support the show, definitely support them. If you're interested in advertising on the show, contact either Vito or myself on Facebook or via email. You can find us out there, wrestlejerk@yahoo.com, vtomaselli@yahoo.com. So definitely seek us out if you're interested in doing any sort of advertising. But episode 23, another week. We always start everything off with the green hit. Vito, what do you got?
Well, I'm actually going to parlay my green hit till later in the show, but I'm going to give you a little snippet of what it's going to be about.
Whoa,
because
okay.
It originally, when I went into it today, I was going into it thinking it was just going to be a green hit because I kind of had a predetermined notion on a lot of things, which that's kind of what I like when I get into stuff and I see something different, and then I can spend hours on it. So I literally spent 5 hours today trying to put together this Sandy Hook deal.
Okay.
And it opened doors to other things that had to do with other things, so I kind of spent some time doing other shit, but I have a lot of details of just weird stuff and stuff that ties together from other stuff, and I'm going to present it from a side of how I take any documentary and try try to go through it because I think a lot of times people will see a video and they'll see something and they'll go, "Huh, true."
Right.
And if that's the first thing they saw, they believe it, and that's wrong. And I think that kind of goes with a lot of people could do it, even if like I find myself doing it sometimes. Where like if I'll see a 9/11 thing and I'm like, "Yep, totally, yep," and then I look at it and like a day will go by and I'll think about it and I'll be like, "No, I saw something else that completely contradicted that," and then I look at it and I so on and so forth. So this is what this was, and that's why it's going to be part 1 because, and we'll get through part 1, and if there's a need for part 2, we'll do it. If not, it's no big deal. But I think when you hear this, there's some pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it was. This all comes from this video that came out this week. It's a 30-minute video.
Well, there's been stuff that's coming out multiple times now.
But this is one that was been spread around Facebook and social media pretty
widely.
This
is the one that I pulled all the clips from.
This is the one that was shared. We were linked into someone.
Times.
Yeah.
So that's the video I took because that's kind of the most popular one, and I broke down each kind of segment of it, and I have fact or fiction for the entire thing, and there's some that are shocking on the real side and on the fake side. Put it that way. That's all I can really say. And whatever side you believe that is, you're going to be shocked on both sides. Fact or fiction, new segment.
Fact or fiction. We'll be hearing it later on tonight, so it'll be interesting to hear your take on that. But I guess on the repack, I do have a little bit of a story.
Well, then here I need to put my that's I believe going to be my song. That's the Green Hit song. I'm trying out different songs each week, but that one's about amateur wrestling, and I think it's kind of cool because you shouldn't be able to make amateur wrestling sound cool, but they do a decent job of it. So, but the only thing I was going to ask you about, hold on, I'm drawing a blank here now because I'm trying to do two things at once. See, we need Sal to pay better attention in there, Sal. I can't shut this thing off.
It is now time for the repack.
And when you hear the song, you know it is. My favorite part. DJ Ben.
So yes, on the repack with DJ Ben, did you hear about this $50 million lawsuit that Hulk Hogan filed?
I did and I didn't. I heard about it, but I heard nothing
against
about
the Laser Spine Institute. So TMZ reports that Hulk Hogan is basing his $50 million lawsuit against Laser Spine Institute on missing a big payday against WWE's top star John Cena. Okay. According to Hogan's attorneys, Hogan was set to receive a lucrative phase-out contract in 2009 that would have delivered a mega main event of Hogan versus Cena. However, because of Hogan's back condition and alleged damage caused by LSI operations, the match did not occur. Hogan then joined TNA at the end of 2009. Essentially, Hogan is claiming that WWE's contract, the match versus Cena, and the subsequent appearance opportunities was valued at $50 million.
There's no way he would have made $50 million for that. Let's say 6 month to a year run with Cena. There's no way, right? That's
no,
bullshit.
But he's saying that combined with the appearances he could have got out of it.
I got you, but that's still a fabrication. I mean, that's
still
an opinion.
That's a whole lot of money, right? But I think it's interesting in that this kind of exposes what WWE was thinking in 2009. I wonder if the original plan for the that ended up with The Rock. Sounds to me like it would have. They wanted it to be Hogan first.
Well, I will say this much because I was listening to Bubba like hardcore at the time, and Hogan was on every other day, literally. Mm-hmm. And he's one of those guys that lets the cat out of the bag constantly. He just
can't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, he just can't. And originally, why he said he eventually signed to TNA was that Vince wanted him to come back in a commissioner type role, and he said he was still Hulk Hogan. I'm not a commissioner, and that's why it was funny later that that's what he turned out to be in TNA.
Right, and then
weird.
But he now of course contradicts, and it's funny because it's all on the radio, so you can imagine that the people he's filing lawsuits against, they're going to get those tapes. They're going to go back and they're going to show, no, you weren't going to wrestle. You were going to go back for a commissioner gimmick. It wasn't going to.
And then all he has to say is that that's a work on this fake radio show. At the end of the day, everything.
Nobody can believe
all
anything
them,
that Hulk Hogan
nothing,
says.
nothing.
So that's the problem.
But you also can believe all of it. It's believable enough. Everything he says is But then sometimes it's not.
I suppose. And the WWE Hall of Fame announcement. I know you're a huge fan of Mick Foley.
I guess I get it. I understand.
You
why.
knew it was inevitable.
Yeah,
inevitable.
I'm not saying he shouldn't be in it. I hate the guy that comes back to advertise. I just hate it. I just hate. I love Cactus Jack.
We would love for him to go away.
Love.
If he just went away and stopped coming back for these stupid one shots.
Yeah,
it seems he's pandering.
It's not like I understand why he does it. I'm never going to come down on a guy taking the booking ever. But you got to look at it almost like, aren't we moved past him now? aren't we just past Mick Foley? Isn't that chapter just done in the WWE land? Like, don't get me wrong, Mae Young still shows up, so there's still a spot for Mick Foley.
She's not dead yet?
No, she gave birth to Hornswoggle just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, my God.
They redid the angle where she was pregnant. She was going to go out and work, and the doctor stops her for some. They were taking her blood pressure or something. They found out she was pregnant, so she gave birth to Hornswoggle.
And that's supposed to be entertaining.
What's the point? I think it may have been the same episode that Del Rio hit Santa Claus at like the week into his babyface turn. He hit Santa Claus with his car. It didn't make any sense. It doesn't make anything they do doesn't make any sense. Man.
No. Wow.
I'll tell you what though, his match with Big Show, 10 stars.
Really?
10 stars. For this reason alone. You get into it where you don't give a shit about the match because it's Del Rio against Big Show. It's just I don't care. I'm done with the Big Show.
Right.
At this point, I'm done with Del Rio. I don't give a shit about him. And they're doing this thing where the crowd's not really getting it. So they get into the match, crowd doesn't get him as a babyface. Big Show and him tell this epic story, which is real basic, easy pro wrestling story. But they did it like it was a main event of WrestleMania. They told a story. And by the end of it, the entire audience, who had to be like 75% Spanish, was marking out to Del Rio.
No
and they
shit.
were not when he came out at all. And when you watch it and they start doing like the close-up shots in the match to the wide pans by the end of it because the crowd's just like losing it, that's what happened to him in one match. So kudos.
Wow. It'll be interesting to see if because his brother is down in.
Are we done with the repack?
Yeah.
Fade her down.
Yeah, that's thank God. DJ Ben. But yeah, so that's a little bit of wrestling news to get out of the way there.
Yeah.
I guess in some mixed martial arts news we could discuss about this. And just announced in the last 24 hours or so, actually officially announced today, the UFC on Fox 7, which will be on 420. Will be headlined.
Waka waka.
Will be headlined by Ben Henderson defending his UFC lightweight title.
I don't know.
Against Strikeforce lightweight champion Gilbert Melendez. So
It's
Gilbert
put up or
Melendez.
shut up for
Melendez,
Gilbert
right? Either he steps in and he's the guy that everyone says he is, or he gets knocked down. But I mean, that's going to be an even fight. Ben Henderson's a bad motherfucker, man. After
and
he
he's
just
proved it.
dismantled
He's proved
Diaz.
It. Yeah.
I mean, and Diaz. They train together, him and Melendez. So what is he gonna do that Diaz
I think Melendez missed the boat to come in and get an easier fight, to show his skills, earn better paydays, get into a better fight to get this fight.
Yeah.
I think if he comes in and loses this fight, he's not done. But there's a little bit of stink on you at that point. And then whatever you made that show, you're gonna make it again.
Right.
You still got to come in and do something.
That Eddie Alvarez guy from Bellator. Have you heard anything about?
Yes, I saw him interviewed on
contract?
that UFC I'm sorry, MMA Uncensored.
Yeah, that's a whole interesting situation there. That guy's getting like the George St. Pierre Brock Lesnar deal, where he gets pay-per-view points and guaranteed pay-per-view and stuff. Like, is Eddie?
Ultimately, the thing is, you get the hype up and make your deal.
We'll have to talk to our MMA expert. Lockport Joe here in the next week or something. Maybe next
missing in action for the Shin to Chin Awards. I don't know what happened to him on the Shin to Chin Awards.
He got sick, I heard.
Sick.
So we'll have to talk to him and get his opinion, because I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen Eddie Alvarez fight ever.
Do you want to know what my favorite line in the entire MMA Awards was?
No, but I bet you have it clipped.
Listen, Cart. Today ain't your day.
I love it.
Like, I say it to myself sometimes in my head for no reason whatsoever. Today ain't your day. you know how many people I want to tell that to?
It's like out of a Dirty Harry movie. You expect Dirty Harry to say it. Oh man! And then there's always, of course, get me a Dr. Pepper, bitch, or whatever. What was it?
Give me a Dr. Pepper, bitch.
And then whenever I go to anywhere to eat, anywhere at all, I want to say
Whatever,
that.
bitch. Give me a chicken sandwich and some waffle fries.
You said that to Jess the other day when you guys went out to eat, didn't you?
Absolutely, yes. It makes me feel better about myself.
Jerome Jenkins. That's not. You haven't heard the last of Jerome Jenkins, folks.
Not at all. I actually talked to him this week. He's going to be prepared to come out sometime around February.
Excellent.
So yeah, he's
Excellent.
He's off work that night.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Why would you have to work if you're Ronda Rousey's boyfriend?
Because you got to do something.
Slanging rocks.
Exactly. I didn't say what kind of work it was. Now did I?
Oh man! But the MMA awards, man. Reflecting back on it, I listened back on it.
Yes, after
turned out perfect. It turned out perfect. I thought it was.
We
great.
definitely got to do more of it, and I'm shocked by our audience. I didn't get a reply, but the
Maybe
numbers
they hated it.
The numbers were up though on the show, so I at least got to say we asked them to shill this stuff and put it out. They had to because the numbers are up. So
Yes, and
if you
please
did that, thank you.
continue to do it.
Continue to do it.
Yeah, we definitely need all the support.
Yeah, and you know it is like don't bombard your page, but at the height of the day, the midday, on Wednesday, even Saturday. So you have to do it the next day, but just somewhere along there, just throw one or two of them out there. It just helps. It helps the cause.
We want to get the word out to as many people as possible, man. This is the show for you guys. Well, tonight we've got a big night, man. We are slam packed,
and we have a mystery guest,
possibly a mystery guest. But the ones that we can actually talk about, we'll be talking to Billy Rock here in about 5 minutes. We'll be talking to him from talking about his promotion, Wrestling His Heart, as well as his training school, the School of Rock. He had his first class graduate. He's on to his second training class, from what I understand. We'll talk to him all about that. And then coming up at the 9 o'clock hour, we will talk to movie producer and radio host Evan Ginsberg. We actually appeared on his radio show last week, and we're kind of returning the favor and having him on this week to talk about that. He was actually a producer of the movie The Wrestler.
Why don't you explain how it all went down, too? I think it's a good story how we even linked up with him.
Yeah, well, it was because he friend requested me on Facebook, and I didn't really know who he was. And
we'll have to ask him how he even came in contact with you.
Yeah,
it's always an interesting story.
Yeah,
how
maybe
the connection's made.
He and I have very similar political views, so I think
he may have read it somewhere.
It may have come across something. In the wrestling world, we have lots of similar friends, I think. And
I guess how does anybody find anybody in the social networking world, right?
Right. So I think it was kind of one of those deals. But he was the producer, one of the producers on the movie The Wrestler with Darren Aronofsky. He actually appeared in the movie.
On our Facebook wall, you can see my gauntlet.
Randy the Ram. Did we tell him about that or no?
You know what? After talking with him the other night, I think he sounds like a cool dude. And no, I don't know. I think we just leave it alone. If he wants to hit us up about it privately, he can ask us. I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah, but we'll talk to him. I've got some questions for him. We'll find out. Hulk Hogan was on Stern a few weeks back and mentioned that he
was on there again since the Bubba stuff.
No, this was during the Bubba stuff.
Okay, so a couple months ago.
Was it that long ago?
I started my job mid-October, and it was the week that I was going to interview for it. So it was like mid-October.
Time flies, right?
You must be having a blast.
Right. But he mentioned that he turned down the Mickey Rourke role in The Wrestler three times.
This is the key question that has to come off on this.
Yes. I want to find out, can Evan confirm or deny that he was offered the movie? It's funny because Hogan has this whole diatribe that he goes, man, I was talking about... I was reading the script and I just didn't see how big the movie was going to be. He talks about, he shakes the pill bottle and there are only 3 pills left. Brother, I shook my pill bottle. I had 2,000 pills. Like Hogan was just like, I'm above this. This isn't the life of a wrestler that I know because mine is I don't ever sleep in my car. I don't have 3 pills left. If I have 3 pills left, it means I haven't gone to the doctor enough and got my prescriptions filled. So
yeah, I was looking for it. I can't seem to come across it. It would be cool to pull the clip itself, from him on Howard Stern.
Yeah, I'm sure we can maybe during a break here
check it out.
And
then just we just say anything about anything, but our special guest is. He's definitely pretty intriguing. Nevertheless, we only say this because we don't want to say a name and then this guy doesn't come through for whatever reason. So
right, and we have reason to be concerned that this person may not live up to their obligation.
Yeah, I just haven't whatever. We'll definitely talk about it later. But if you want to give a little talk up to who exactly Billy Rock and
how we
when
met
did we first meet?
Yeah,
Billy
we met Billy Rock back in our IWA Mid-South days. He's an Indiana guy, wrestled in Indiana in IPW and some of those companies in Indiana. And about the time just after like the Naptown Dragons came into IWA Mid-South, there was this second wave of Indiana guys from IPW that Ian was given chances to. One of those guys was Billy Rock.
Who did he first ride with? Do you recall?
I think he rode by himself because he's from Lafayette and it was an easy drive for him. But I remember meeting him and I remember everything about Billy Rock. Have you ever heard anybody say anything bad about Billy Rock ever?
No. And we always like to hang out with him too. And he was always a guy that you'd always have a good solid match with if you were pinned up against him. And he was always coming to work. It wasn't like I'm back here again. I never got the guys that were like that and like, why do you do this? If it's not fun or it's not exciting, I mean, what are you doing it for?
Yes.
You know?
Well, he slowed down wrestling. He had a child. He kind of had some real life business.
I wonder what that's like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you might be going through something like that. And he started the School of Rock training school, School of Rock Wrestling Academy. He started teaching young guys, and now it's turned into a wrestling promotion. Wrestling is Heart. At this time, I'd like to introduce and welcome to In the Rotation, Billy Rock. Billy, are you there?
Yeah. Hey, how are you guys doing?
What's up, man?
I'm awesome, man. Thanks so much for joining us. Obviously, you heard a little bit of our talk up. Tell us a little bit about, right off the bat, what is Wrestling is Heart?
Wrestling is Heart. It's basically it's going to be mostly my students make up this promotion. But the last few years, I've kind of dabbled running a show here or there, and this year I decided to we're pushing it up to 6 shows, just kind of easing into being a booker and a promoter, and really excited about it. We're trying to just try to bring back good wrestling to Indiana. That's my main goal anyway. So.
Well, that's awesome. Obviously, you mentioned that you have some students. The School of Rock, you've had. Is it now you're on to your second class? Is that correct?
Oh, I'm on to class number 5 currently.
Okay. So, talk a little bit about what made you decide that you wanted to go that route and open up a school.
After I left wrestling, I was kind of sitting around. I was kind of bored, and because like wrestling for me, like really, like I don't work on cars. I don't go to the lake and go on vacations or anything or go to amusement parks. I mean, like really, when people ask me what I like to do, I mean, the only thing it is pro wrestling. And so one of the oldest student I have, he contacted me at the age of 16. He's like, hey, I think you need to run a school. And so I was like, hey, I think I do too. So I worked out a deal with a local promoter here in Lafayette who was running a place called BMF Wrestling. And he was able to let me train this kid free of charge. Like he didn't charge me for the building or anything, and just so I could train this kid and get started. And that's how I got started. And then like it just kind of snowballed from there. I went from like I had two students my first year, and then it went up to 5, and now this year I have 11 students. So it just keeps growing and growing and growing for me.
What's been the biggest challenge now transitioning from being a wrestler to now having to train a group of guys? And there's kind of a part 2 to that question. So, but answer that first.
The biggest challenge from going from like being a competitor to just a trainer.
Yes.
That one is that's a good question. For me, the hardest part is just when I first started, it was really, really hard because what would happen is my students would start wrestling shows, and like I got the bug that I wanted to start working shows again. I did for a little while, but now that novelty's wore off, and just like I really enjoy just training the guys and seeing what they can do.
Sure.
Another challenge was just trying to another challenge is just in training in general was trying to find the patience for some of this stuff, because like take for example for like a headlock, just grabbing a headlock for me it's second nature, but to train somebody, there's a lot of steps into showing the headlock. So I get frustrated at my students, and then I get frustrated at myself for not explaining something correctly. So
sure, that definitely makes sense. And then I guess part 2, you somewhat answered already that, do you mind being where you're at now, which you definitely answered, and I could see that. But the other part is, isn't it kind of fun when you get a new guy in and now you have a new imagination? It's almost like you get to do a new gimmick for a little bit, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That's kind of like where one of my students named Sue Jackson, and that came about with me just, one day I was cleaning the house and I was listening to Johnny Cash, and a boy named Sue came on.
Right.
I kind of just thought to myself, why hasn't there ever been a wrestler that at least had a girl's name, but it was like a like it was a big guy, and so it was really neat to watch. I gave that to Sue, which was neat to give him that idea, and then that guy James Montgomery just took that gimmick to a whole new level, and it's awesome to see them start from like absolutely knowing nothing to seeing them become something in wrestling.
It is so awesome when Vito and I were booking and kind of running the show for Elite Pro Wrestling there for a while. You got this great sensation of the idea that you come up with. You're able to tell it to someone or create a gimmick for someone, and then to watch them pull it off and have success with it. There is such an awesome feeling that you get being on that side. It's almost that I've never wrestled, so Vito can maybe speak more to this, and you can too. But there's that rush of accomplishment, and oh my God, this got over, and it was my idea. That is just such a rush that comes with booking. So obviously that same thing happened with you, I take it.
Yeah, and it's happened with quite a few of my guys, and actually one of them. This one wasn't my idea. The guy that was kind of helping working with me, he actually helped one of my students come up with a gimmick, and my student was having a hard time. He wasn't the most athletic guy, so we had to come up with something good that would, kind of hide that, but kind of get him over. And my student's name is Ripper Thomas. That's his character's name, and he took that idea that we gave him, and like you couldn't even tell that he's only had like one or two matches, because because of the gimmick we gave him, he's got to be like slow and he's got to be methodical, because if he goes too fast, he screws it up. And so to watch a kid that's only had a couple matches actually slow down and just like, it's just unbelievable how well he's adapted to that gimmick.
Is there, truth or not, is there still a feud between Paulie, Brandon Tomaselli, and Billy Rock? Is it still going wild?
It's like the Hatfields and McCoys, I think. They'll always be around.
Yeah, like if you guys saw each other out at a Walmart, it would just break down, right?
Into a wrestling match right there. Irish whips and everything.
The truth is, I don't even know if I could, my body from like the lower back down is in complete pain, so I don't think I could even handle. Like Brandon's gotten a lot bigger since the last time I've seen him.
Are you calling him fat, Billy Rock? Are you calling Brandon
fat?
I'm telling you, man, he's gonna bust through this door in a second. You have no idea. So, what's the biggest thing you miss, man? What's the biggest thing from when it was really going good? What do you miss?
About wrestling?
Yeah.
Performing. Just being in the ring and obviously I miss the people, the fans that were loyal to me. I obviously miss them, but it's awesome getting on here and talking to you guys. I miss hanging out with some of the boys and stuff. It's always, that's the great thing about Facebook, seeing, talking to some people on there. But just being competitive in the ring on a regular basis, I really do miss that a lot. Just unfortunately, like you said early on, just some real life stuff started happening, and plus now, just my wrestling style when I do wrestle is very, very Johnny Saint. Like before, I dabbled with just a few Johnny Saint type stuff, but now I try to dictate the whole match that way. So,
sure.
To help out on my body.
And then also now, Billy Rock, if people wanted to train with you, which Ben and I definitely stamp of approval, if you want to learn definitely how to not waste your time on the independents, which we deem the independents those companies that just have no idea there's anything else out there and they think they're on par with WWE. They're just a smaller version of that. That's called independents. Yeah. And then there's the indies. There's guys that are tied to the indies that are going to teach indie guys how to become indie guys with the idea that they can hopefully one day make money. But here's what you got to do from A to Z. And if you're out there and you're anywhere near Billy Rock, which he's going to give his information when I stop babbling. Go to that. Go there, because you're gonna get taught the right way, and your time's not going to be wasted, guys. The minute you start this business, your door starts to close. You get a little bit of open and a little bit of open, then something closed, and a little bit more open. And the more you go to, and the better guys you put yourself around, and the better opportunities you get. Think about it. If you go to Harvard, you get a lot better opportunities than if you go to MCC, McHenry County College. Right? you're coming out with better opportunities. I think when you go to a guy like Billy Rock, you're already coming out ahead of the game. So
how can people find you if they want to figure out how to train with you?
Facebook's the best way. They can just look me up as Billy Rock, ROC. You can go to School of Rock Wrestling Academy. That's also on Facebook. You can go on Wrestling is Heart and message me there. That's on Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, you can go to Billy Rock at live.com, and you can just message me that way. Schools in Lafayette. I get a lot of people are saying, this is the one thing that kills me. I get a lot of people that message me, and they're like, I wish you were closer to where I live. I live like 2 hours away. But the way I look at it is I only have training 1 day a week, and if you're running wrestling shows, you better be wrestling a lot further than 2 hours. So
sure.
To me, it would be worth the trip.
And, I almost want to tell people, get your basic knowledge of bumps by any Joe Schmo that can show you how to fall on your back. Learn the basics that's closest to home, and just kind of get the fundamentals going. And then you find a guy like Billy Rock, and you have him go there and just kind of shave the shit off you that you have from that other place, But then just not waste his time and your time, and he's going to get you motivated to start working. So that 1 day a week is a really important day to round your week out,
right?
And then to understand, I'm meeting here to find out my Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays.
Right.
And again, I can't support it enough. Everybody, get a hold of Billy Rock.
Yeah, and the connections that he has. I mean, his guys are working for promotions like Chikara, Wrestling is Heart, and the School of Rock. You guys are part of that National Wrestling Day, aren't you?
Yeah, we got I wish I could say the match, but they haven't announced it yet. But yes, we will be. We actually have a match on that show that I was ecstatic to be a part of. And then some other places. My guys have. Some guys did some stuff when Dragon Gate came to Indianapolis. They did some stuff there. They did some stuff for CZW when they came here to Indianapolis. So,
you're going to get work in good places. Yeah, you're going to get work in the good places. The indies, not the independents. The indies.
The indies. Yeah, if you guys want to be part of the indies, it's I would definitely say School of Rock is the place to go.
How did you guys get hooked up with that National Wrestling Day? That's a huge deal at this point. I mean, almost everybody's involved in that thing.
Just
they approached you guys.
Became part of the Wrestling is Heart thing, and plus. We have a following with the our SOR Class Wars internet show,
right?
And so that's how they contacted us. So,
gotcha. No, that's cool. It's such a great opportunity for you guys to be on a stage with Ring of Honor and Evolve and all those bigger indie promotions that are out there right now. For you guys to be able to be in that group is such a huge shot in the arm, I can imagine, for your credibility as a school and certainly as a promotion as you start up. How often, you said 6 shows a year from Wrestling is Heart, you're thinking?
This year, yes, and then I'm not sure about next year.
One
of the things that I don't want to do is I always try to take things slow.
Sure.
So I don't want to just be like because you get some places that they think immediately they're going to be the next Ring of Honor or something, and they shell out a ton of money and they can't run shows anymore. So
you know what? If Quackenbush has proved one thing, it's focus on your hometown guys. Spend enough time on each guy. Don't just throw them out there because they sell tickets or because you need bodies. And by doing limited shows, by spending time on your guys, you're going to build your name by every credible guy now that comes up from you. And you're in a perfect location. You're kind of in the middle of everything else where there really is nothing going on. And yet you guys are regionally can hit any market that's doing anything. Whether it be the East Coast, the South, Southeast, or the Midwest, whatever. I think it's just AAW at this point.
Right.
I don't know anybody else that's really, taking outside guys, but that definitely. I mean, I can definitely see where you're in a good spot. So keep doing what you're doing, man. From the outside looking in, it seems like you're in a really good spot.
Yeah, I'm very blessed, and like you guys were talking about National Pro Wrestling Day. I remember when it was first announced and seeing the SOR Class Wars and Wrestling with Heart logo among like Evolve and Chikara and Ring of Honor. It was kind of it really pumped me up, and it really got our guys excited about just where they're at right now in wrestling.
Well, Billy Rock, thank you so much for joining us, man. We wanted to get you a chance to get the word out about Wrestling Heart. When is the first Wrestling is Heart show?
It'll be April 20th in Lafayette, Indiana.
420, baby. I like it.
Hit up Billy Rock on Facebook. Guys, check him out. Watch his product. Spread his videos. He's what's good about the indies.
Right. He's a friend of the show and is probably the nicest guy I have ever met in the pro wrestling business, hands down. Billy Rock, you are a king among men, sir, and you are definitely a friend in the rotation, and we wish nothing but the best for you in the future. Okay, bud?
Hey, thank you very much, guys.
All right. Stay in touch, man. We'll do the same.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Billy Rock. Billy Rock there on In the Rotation. We got a chance to talk to him. It's good to talk to him. It's been a while since we had a chance to talk to good old Billy Rock.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. Like I said, he was always a guy that if you had to work with him, you knew it was going to be a nice, easy night, and the crowd was going to pop, and it was going to be nice and easy. There was never going to be something that was like, or I got to take this, like,
Right.
Hey, Sal, guess what you're doing tonight?
No, that never happened.
Never. No. The rumors are not true about me, basically. Not taking shit. And if you go back and watch DVDs, you'll see I take plenty of things.
I don't know. Sal behind the glass is already shaking his head now.
And giving the middle finger.
Right. So, but it is now time to take our first break.
We're going a little early because we got a lot to do tonight.
Yes, we'll be right back here on In the Rotation.
This break's brought to you by Ben Jordan.
I apologize for my voice. A little cold. We've learned in our conversation about this country's staggering number of gun-related deaths that it's based on a surprising amount of non-gun factors. God, media, and crazy people. Wow, that's a... God, media, and crazy people, that's a pretty busy graphic. Can we streamline that and yet also represent all three constituencies? There you go. I'm going to go out of the room here and say that this conversation is taking place between parties in good faith, and that all of us, on any side of the debate, are anti-massacre. If some common sense firearms regulations might cut the number of these killings, why not try?
We have many, many laws pertaining to guns already. We ought to enforce those laws.
We already have laws banning murder, but we still have murders.
Drunk driving. Do we go to the Ford Motor Company and tell them stop making these automobiles because people get drunk and kill people in cars?
No, but we do enact stricter blood alcohol limits, raise the drinking age, ramp up enforcement and penalties, and charge bartenders who serve drunks, and launch huge public awareness campaigns to stigmatize the dangerous behavior in question. And we do all those things because it might just help bring drunk driving rates down, I don't know, by 2/3 in a few decades. So, that number gets even lower. Like magazine sizes, smaller magazines for guns. Make these crazy people have to reload more.
Changing a magazine, I can do that pretty quick.
Yeah, but you're fast fingers, Graham. The foremost gun enthusiast / speed origami champion in the world. He made that in 3 seconds. How he uses his heavily calloused gun hands to make such delicate paper art. Why, it's a mystery. All right, magazine restrictions won't help. How about we keep all the guns except weapons designed purely to efficiently shred enemy soldiers?
We had an so-called assault weapons ban for 10 years. The Justice Department and others who studied it said it made no difference.
An original assault weapons ban was ill-conceived and didn't work properly.
Well, you know what they say. If at first you don't succeed, it. Again, none of these will ever be perfect. We're not looking for some magic flying, solving projectile. We're looking for a series of steps from different areas that over time can improve the situation, as opposed to what we have now, which is legislative riders snuck into appropriation bills that prevent the ATF from inspecting gun dealers' inventories, and bills that make it harder to put disturbed individuals on do not buy lists, and laws exempting gun makers from any legal accountability for their product. I mean, for God forbid, McDonald's doesn't tell you how hot their hot steaming coffee is. That happens and you're taking the money flying train to McPunitive Damage Town. But an epidemic of gun violence? No, we can't. Our hands are tied. We can't do anything. We are a nation of overreactors to everything. We have step-by-step child-proof this entire country. 20 years ago, a guy threw a rock over an overpass and it hit a car windshield, and now every overpass in the country is like a habit trail. It's just got a giant 13-meter thing. Football stadiums have giant nets behind the goalposts so you don't get hit by the ball you're supposed to be watching. We can't do anything about this? How about we make assault rifles available but only at shooting ranges? Make guns less sexy so they won't be considered so cool by young people. The next Jason Bourne movie stars Woody Allen. How about that? You're not really a gun person. It's not so much the killing, but the loading and the cleaning. It's a lot of work. Or even better, creative sound editing to take away the cool gun factor. See? Those silly sound effects completely dulled my desire to get caught in a violent and bloody three-way Mexican standoff. And if you don't like any of those solutions, please, we'd love to hear yours. There are no bad ideas.
I refuse to play the game of assault weapon because that's any weapon. It's a hammer. As the article came out this week, the massive number that are killed with hammers.
Okay. If you want to regulate hammers, we could try that. Would it be possible also to regulate bags of hammers, or anyone as dumb as that? But aside from hammer control, which, by the way, was a great MC Hammer album, do you have any other ideas for reducing gun violence?
The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
So the school principal with a gun is going to stop a guy with an assault rifle and a bulletproof vest. You know, I don't think Principal Belding is as badass as you think he might be. Here's the problem. Technology has democratized carnage. And it's very weird to me that gun enthusiasts won't even entertain, let me amend that, some gun enthusiasts won't even entertain the idea of common sense law enforcement supported small bore, so to speak, moves to try and rein in this violence. What's really going on here?
We have constitutional freedom, the right to keep and bear arms in this country.
Yeah. For a well-regulated militia, not a personal arsenal free-for-all. There's all sorts of stuff you can't have already. Tanks, F-16 fighter jets, surface-to-air, anything. When that Constitution was written, people had muskets. So, okay, you can have all the muskets you want. You can even have assault muskets for all I care. Jazz it up with a bayonet. Go nuts. But why is it that there is no other issue in this country with as dire public safety consequences as this, that we are unable to make even the most basic steps towards putting together a complex plan of action to slow this epidemic spread? What is really going on here?
I think you, like a lot of people, Joshua, are worried that the federal government's going to come after our guns.
Now we're getting somewhere. So this isn't really about the Constitution or efficacy of regulation or intruder defense. It's about how perilously close some people in this country feel they're living to a tyrant's rule.
It's something we've seen happen time and time again in history, with Stalin, happened in Cambodia, and then, of course, the Third Reich. No one saw that coming until it was too late.
Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
Holy no one's taking away all the guns. But now I get it. Now I see what's happening. So this is what it is. Their paranoid fear of a possible dystopic future prevents us from addressing our actual dystopic present. We can't even begin to address 30,000 gun deaths that are actually, in reality, happening.
And we are back here on In the Rotation, live on Spreaker.com. Tuesdays at 8 p.m. You can check us out every Tuesday at 8 p.m. right here on Spreaker.com. And I hope that song is now stuck in your head, because it's been stuck in my head for the last week.
Yeah, no, it's not.
No? I like Bruno Mars. The guy can sing his ass off.
He's the guy, too, that I liked, and I saw him, and I was like, ew.
He's a douchebag, yeah. He just got busted. He's got a huge coke problem.
Good.
Huge.
Good.
But, yeah, I like Bruno Mars. At least I like this song. It's like the catchiest hook I've heard in a long time.
I'm sure if we went to YouTube, there's probably 300 million hits.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, check us out live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on Spreaker.com. You can also check us out every Wednesday, twice on Wednesdays, on the RIP Radio Network at noon, and then again at 10 p.m. Central Time on RIP Radio Network. You can check that out on the TuneIn Radio app. You can also check us out every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on Party Animal Radio, partyanimalradio.com. And, of course,
Thursdays, let's not forget about Captain Atheist live every Thursday.
Does he still do a show?
I don't think so.
I think he gave up on it. I don't know. We haven't heard from him. He just dropped off the face of this and stopped doing it. I stopped getting messages from him on Facebook. I don't know if he's mad at us.
We just stopped sending the check. Well, what do you mean? No, we just worked out that glitch.
Yeah, sorry, man. We just had to take you off the payroll.
Yeah.
It was a valiant effort. We tried something, and it may or may not work.
And if he pops in from time to time and does a show, I'm not really hating on it. But
yeah, it would be fun to hear from him every once in a while. But
he needs
in
co-host.
his current setup, he cannot thrive.
Cannot.
He cannot thrive. But yeah, I think we got some time to do a little bit of news before we talk to Evan Ginsberg at the top of the hour. We do have. I know I have some news here ready for you.
Yeah, what's going on?
But I know we have a.
Just start talking.
Isn't there a whole beginning?
Always. It's really just straight to the point. Which I was told WWE uses this for something else, and I'm like,
really?
Oh, I didn't know that. I just liked how it sounded.
Oh, that's disappointing.
They use it for like that. If you're not 17, or you know, don't try this at home, or Nora's hit me
really?
up. Yeah.
Oh,
it's just that beginning. I think.
Well, you know what? We suggest that you too try it.
Fuck it. It sounds like badass 1992 ring music, if you ask me.
It sounds like it could be used for, like, The Brood.
Yes, of course.
So I have a story here that's it's interesting. One of those interesting stories. Do you remember, I know you didn't really participate in this, but I'm sure you remember the online poker craze of about the late 90s, early 2000s?
I just assumed it's still as heavy as it is today.
Not at all, because the U.S. government put the fucking kibosh on.
What did they do that wasn't being done?
They basically shut down all the sites that were operating inside the United States.
It's illegal.
Because it's illegal, right? Okay. They finally said, okay, enough.
Well, but the same people aren't gambling just in one spot?
If you live in America, you cannot play online poker.
Oh, no shit.
You cannot. It will block you. All the sites, they'll block you.
Whoa.
This is now the story of the people that had won millions of dollars on these online pokers. What's happened trying to get their money, right? So check this out. High rollers are
like in limbo during the transition.
Yes, I'm going to read this whole story for you. The headline reads, high rollers are still big losers 18 months after online poker's Black Friday. Long after online poker was shut down in America and players started selling account balances to each other in a wall.
When did it exactly happen? Do you recall? Roughly.
I think it'll be in the article. Long after the online poker was shut down in America and players started selling account balances to each other in a Wall Street-style shadow market, there are a lot of people still waiting for their money. Quote, to win at poker, you have to be patient. This almost feels like a game of poker within the actual game, says Daniel Jungleman 12 Cates. The problem? Quote, in this game, I have no idea what to do. Cates is a 23-year-old and has won approximately $7 million in his career as a poker pro. For the last 18 months, though, 80% of Cates' bankroll, which is around $145 million, belonging to 80% of Cates' bankroll. And around $145 million belonging to more than 100,000 players, has been held in limbo by the United States Department of Justice. On April 15, 2011, a day that has been dubbed Black Friday in the poker community, the Department of Justice shut down the American operations of 3 major sites: PokerStars, Full Tilt Poker, and Ultimate Bet. PokerStars had enough money in reserve to quickly pay off its American players, allowing them to withdraw whatever amounts they had in their accounts. But Ultimate Bet and Full Tilt both lacked the funds to make the players whole.
Whoa.
So these people that were running these online websites Well, this doesn't go into it, but what they were doing was they were paying themselves out of people's accounts.
Of course.
And saying, well, we'll have the money later and
It's
we'll pay it
just
back.
numbers anyway,
Right, it's
on a
just numbers on a machine, right? Well, when they got shut down, everyone wanted their money, and they went, we don't have it. Well, what do you mean we don't have it? Where's my money? Well, we borrowed it to pay our salaries.
You know what, though? I don't know if you realize this or not. We stuck a tape recorder into that exact meeting.
Oh, yeah?
And we have an exact line directly from the meeting.
Oh, no kidding. You can't hear it over there. You can't.
See, we need to be able to plug multiple devices into certain things. So you pod stuff down and pod stuff
And if that's
up.
the step in my office line,
it's not.
Oh, because
that was it
that
today.
plays really quiet.
HO day.
Oh,
which would have plugged in perfect.
Right. But Ultimate Bet and Full Tilt both lacked the funds to make the players whole. Ultimate Bet was a ghost ship of a site, mired in corruption, cheating scandals, and other problems. It basically vaporized, along with its customers' cash. Full Tilt has also been badly mismanaged and was beloved by players and ran on superior software. Anticipating that Full Tilt's money problems could be resolved, players quickly began buying account balances from other players. Those whose stakes and their net worths were mostly tied up in Full Tilt needed cash. Their better capitalized peers gave it to them in exchange for the rights to whatever money was returned by Full Tilt and the Department of Justice down the road. Transactions were conducted via Twitter, email, and the popular poker-oriented chat board called 2plus2.com. Says Dan Fleischman, former CEO of the site VictoryPoker.com, quote, the price of the dollar scaled down as things went on, with no resolution in sight. It started at 85%, then it went down to 30 or 40. Says Rich Ryan, a senior staff writer and producer for Poker News, by September of 2011, people were selling their Full Tilt account balances via 2plus2 for as little as 1 cent on the dollar. In typical poker player fashion, most of these deals, regardless of sums, were completed without contracts. In January of this year, Full Tilt and the Department of Justice worked out an arrangement in which the Department of Justice took ownership of Full Tilt, but with the intention of selling it to raise funds to pay back American players. 7 months later, on July 31st, PokerStars purchased Full Tilt from the Department of Justice. Business Week estimated that the transaction would make $547 million for the U.S. government.
Doesn't that seem a little odd that you could buy it back from them?
At the time,
I mean, why can you do that? I mean, and why is it theirs?
Right. Yeah.
Hey, it's ours, but pay us for it. And
right.
They put a price that's reasonable to get.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
At the time, the Department of Justice vowed to reimburse Full Tilt U.S. players. Stars said it would take responsibility for returning $184 million to non-American customers. PokerStars followed through on its end of the deal and recently relaunched the Full Tilt site outside of the U.S. In an announcement to Americans, though, this was their ominously bureaucratic-sounding and detail-free advice for recouping funds. Quote, file petition with the Department of Justice through a remission process, which will be administered through the Department of Justice. Says Cates, initially I thought this was good news, but unfortunately, the Department of Justice hasn't told me or anyone anything. They don't even answer email. According to Stephen L. Kessler, an attorney based in New York City who specializes in forfeiture law and is representing high-stakes pro Adam Webb's attempt to recover nearly $59,000 in this case, it's business as usual to make seized funds difficult to recover. Any forfeiture case is about fundraising, he says. In one of its publications, the National Asset Forfeiture Strategic Plan, 2008 to 2012, the government talks about bringing in $2 billion in forfeitures and returning only $700 million. Recouping Full Tilt's funds would be, quote, a long, drawn-out process to the point that you will need to be out 5 or 6 or 7 figures for it to be worth pursuing. The system is set up so that you are discouraged from going after your money. There is cost in terms of emotion, time, effort, and cash. You can do the claim yourself, but the discovery process will require you to show tax returns and bank statements. It's virtually impossible to do without an attorney. Plus, you look at what you're exposing to get back what belongs to you. You have to wonder if it will turn into a tax case. He adds that PokerStars administering its own payment in a simple and straightforward manner was an anomaly. I'm surprised that they let PokerStars do it that way, he says. In a statement issued on November 14th, John Pappas, executive director of the Poker Players Alliance, an online poker lobby and support group, said that he believed completion of a claims process is a long way away. Attorney Kessler believes that none of the money will be paid out before the Department of Justice receives all of the $547 million PokerStars is paying it, and it won't happen until 2015. Could you imagine you have thousands, if not millions of dollars on one of these sites, and the Department of Justice is saying, you don't get to touch it until we get our money.
It's almost just like getting caught with a bunch of drugs, man. You got caught at the very end, and part of it, it's for the taking. I think they wait for these things to balloon up to a certain dollar amount, and then they rob them blind, and then they sell it back to them. It's unbelievable.
Oh, sure. And there's evidence that shows that there are actual poker pros that were paid to endorse these sites to people, to poker players, even though they wouldn't play on them because they know the corruption that was going on in them. But they were getting paid millions of dollars from these guys to promote their shit, dude. And it's all the Department of Justice is, hanging on to their money. And basically they're making it so hard that people don't even want to go after it. They just say, fuck it. So they get
unbelievable. Of course.
Where does that
big
money
shakedown, man?
That money's got to go somewhere, right?
It's a big fucking shakedown. and if you go for your money, then you're part of their database now. That you're part of that deal anyway. It's a weird way to lock you in, man.
So that's a little bit of news for you there.
And I bet when you claim to get the money, you got to pay taxes on all that old money or some kind of weird stuff that proves of what you had. There's probably some weird loophole to it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Where the money that you actually are supposed to get, you'll owe in taxes from shit you never did. Extra VIG taxes that just got added today. Guess what?
But now we're at the top of the hour. We're going to be talking with Evan Ginsberg. Let me tell you a little bit about Evan before we have him on. He was an associate producer and actually appears as himself in Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler, starring Mickey Rourke.
What was he exactly in the movie?
He played himself.
That's what I mean. Explain the scene.
I don't remember it, so we're gonna have to ask him. I'll be honest with you, it's been a little while since I've seen the movie. But he's also the producer of a full-length documentary, Teresa Sorreo, Alive Again, which you can view a trailer for that at aliveagainmovie.com. The movie's actually starring Gary Sinise and Lanny Poffo.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. He's a director of his upcoming music documentary, The Stage is an Altar. He also hosts Legends Radio. You can hear that radio show at legendsradio.net. And it features hundreds of hours of interviews with the biggest names in arts and sports. He's also the writer of an autobiographical short story collection, Apartment 4B, Like in Brooklyn. He appears in a variety of acting roles, including the Nowhere Room screening at the Macrobay Fair Fest, Saturday at 9:15. You can get your tickets for that at Macrobay. I think I'm saying that wrong. Fairfilmfest.com. We'll provide the link on our Facebook page. At this time, we'd like to welcome Evan Ginsberg to In the Rotation. Evan, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
How you guys doing?
We're doing very well. Tell us a little bit about. Obviously, our fans have seen the movie The Wrestler. Talk a little bit about your involvement in that movie as the associate producer. Like, what exactly did you do on that movie?
Okay. Basically, I was the wrestling guy, with the exception of Alpha, of course, who trained Mickey. I did 5 or 6 casting calls. I brought about 150 different wrestlers down, including Necro Butcher, including Ron Killings, including Romeo Roselli. Many of the wrestlers that actually made the final cut of the movie, I had brought in initially. I brought Ring of Honor into the fold, and they were the climactic scene in the movie as well. And basically, I was like the liaison between the quote-unquote wrestling community and Darren Aronofsky and everybody shooting the film. And it was an interesting, voyage, if you will, because we would roll into indie wrestling cards and be filming, and the fans did not want us there. Yeah, we were interrupting their wrestling shows. So, it was kind of like guerrilla filmmaking, hit and run. So
yeah, we actually got a chance to view one of the scenes that was filmed at the CZW show where they did the punch-off between Necro Butcher and Randy the Ram. We got to actually see that ourselves up close and personal. Was that your first experience working on a movie? Or
I had done some minor projects before that, small documentaries that never really made a lot of noise. But, speaking of Necro Butcher, I have a wild story that very few people have heard. When he initially was to meet Darren, he was very late. He was about 2 hours late that day. He had a really long drive. So we're waiting, and Darren's like, the guy's 2 hours late. Is he coming?
Right.
So finally, Necro Butcher's mom is calling, and she's like, "Where's my boy?" She's worried about the Necro Butcher. So Darren finally leaves the office, and finally Necro walks in, and we're like, Darren, he's here. Come back.
Sure.
And like they almost missed each other, and finally they connected, and Darren's like, "Yeah, this is the guy." This is the guy, right?
I was going to ask you what was his first reaction to seeing Necro Butcher and meeting him, and did he know immediately that this was the guy for the role?
I would say so. I mean, what I would basically do was, okay, guys, you're on. Darren's in that room. Go read. I mean, they were literally reading for the parts, so the door would close behind them, and that was it. But the vibe I got was, yeah, this is the guy.
Gotcha.
And another interesting story along those lines was at the time we finished in 2008, but throughout the process, I first met them 7 years earlier. When I say them, Darren Aronofsky, the producer, the money guy, the guy who set up the financial deal, Scott Franklin, et cetera, so on. And during the process, at one point, they said to themselves, we're not getting the money we need on Mickey's name. At the time, Mickey was not quote-unquote hot. So Darren says to me, Evan, listen, we're going to go meet Nicolas Cage, and I want you to get him into the Ring of Honor show at the Manhattan Center. Hush, hush, no paparazzi, just get the guy in there. You're in charge. So it's sort of like, meeting the president. It was like an underground parking lot, and for like 30 seconds, I'm like, hey, this guy's like a really big deal. And then you start talking to him, and he's just like any other human being.
Sure.
So I had made arrangements. Okay, listen, Nicholas, the guards know we're coming, the security knows we're coming. So bing bang boom, we're in the door, we're down the elevator, we're backstage, and within 2 seconds you realize, celebrities are treated very differently than us mere mortals because, they're throwing food at them, like anything you need, anything you want, da. So it was an interesting experience, and the guy was very humble, very gracious, but what Darren and everybody realized in the course of the weekend was, we were only with him 2-3 days, he was too healthy for the part. He just looked too good. He was 10 years younger than Mickey approximately, and believe it or not, the guy's pretty built, he's pretty ripped, and he just didn't look the part. I mean, Mickey looked like he'd been to hell and back.
Sure.
So,
Speaking of that part,
Speaking
of that part, it kind of leads into something that I was telling our listeners earlier that I wanted to actually ask you about, which is Hulk Hogan about 2 months ago or so was on the Howard Stern show and mentioned that he turned down that role 3 different times. Now, we know Hulk Hogan has been known to say some things and put himself in situations and put himself over. Remember, he did slam Andre just a few weeks before he died, at WrestleMania 3, which we know, of course, isn't true. Can you confirm or deny that Hulk Hogan actually was offered that part as Randy the Ram or whatever it would have been if Hulk Hogan would have been the character?
The only thing I could confirm is I never heard Darren or Scott Franklin or anybody say that. I was not like living in the office for the many months and years prior to the filming. I mean, in fact, there were weeks and months at a time where I never even heard from them, because it was a very long process. The script was revised 4 or 5 times, and getting the funding, et cetera, so on. This was a 7-year process. So, obviously I was not with these gentlemen every minute of every day for 7 years,
Sure.
but I never heard that.
Would you?
That's all I could say.
Can you at least say like you would have heard that if there was any real talks at some point?
Well, what I could tell you, personally, was in the autograph scene, which I appeared in a speaking part. I had said to Darren several times, listen, let's get Jimmy Valiant, let's get Johnny Valiant, let's get Nikolai Volkov, let's get Captain Lou, let's get all these legitimate guys that'll really add to the film. And Darren kind of waited back and forth, and finally, the only guy who made the cut was Johnny Valiant, who didn't really look like Johnny Valiant anymore because his hair wasn't dyed, and of course he was much older. And to make a long story short, the point being, and this is this is almost word for word what Darren said to me was, you know, if Mickey was in that scene, he would look like the odd man out. You know, you'd be with these legitimate wrestling legends, and there's an actor in the middle of it all. So
Sure.
he was. So my point being, he was never big on getting the legitimate, you know, old school stars in there because he felt it would be almost distracting. So I never heard this from their mouths about Hogan. I'm being honest. I mean, I would tell
Perfect.
you otherwise.
And then one other kind of Marcus question, like, is there anything that was left out of the movie that you're like, man, I wish that scene would have made it in the movie? Is there one wrestling scene or any scene from that movie that was left out?
Well, you know, when the smoke cleared, there was only 13 minutes of actual wrestling in the movie, much
Sure.
like Rocky. I mean, there was tons of wrestling footage in there. So I'm sure. I'll tell you what I felt a little bad about. There's a scene where Mickey's in the stands and you see Ron Killings and Romeo Roselli wrestling, and you know, Killings is awesome. He's awesome. I think WWE underuses him, and they just left a very brief snippet. Very, very brief snippet in there, and you know, some of that ended up on the cutting room floor, and that was partly because Romeo at the time had a knee injury, and he wasn't 100% when they were shooting. But I would have liked to have seen more of Killings in there because that guy is just dynamic.
Sure. Well, we definitely got to say that that's actually it's a favorite of mine. I think it's going to be a cult classic for years because it was done right on every account. Really, truly. But
well, I'll tell you what happened. It's kind of ironic in a sense, in hindsight. The indie wrestling promoters on the East Coast, they knew me. They didn't know. They didn't really know Darren. They weren't film people, you know. So they were like, Evan, these guys okay? You know, we're spending a lot of time with them. You know, so. I was like, guys, yeah, they're okay. They're going to do this right. They're going to do it justice. I've read the script.
Any chance in a part 2?
No, I don't. I really doubt it. The screenwriter himself, he said that his version, and he even said it at a convention at a public appearance. He said his version is if Randy didn't die at that moment on that top rope, he would be dying in the ring because his life was such a mess, and that was the intention of his script. Now,
Sure.
you know, you could still say never say never. There could be, you know, some huge money deal down the road, but I really tend to doubt it. You know, first of all, the movie was not a huge commercial hit to begin with. It was done on a $6 million budget, and it made $36 million in the States. So, you know, it's kind of like the Howard Stern movie. Howard Stern's movie was critically acclaimed for the most part, but there was never a sequel, even though it was, you know, it made money, it was successful. But
And he's talked about that hundreds of times, so, you know, it's always a
the
story.
wrestler was critically acclaimed, but it was not a huge hit because I think, first of all, it was too violent for the multiplexes, too bloody, too out there. And also, what happened was the distributor at the time, they smelled gold with Slumdog Millionaire. So a lot of their money went into that as opposed to the wrestler.
Now, you have a new movie that you're doing some producing work for. It's a full-length documentary, Teresa Sareo. Am I saying that right? Sareo? Sario. Alive Again, featuring Gary Sinise. Tell us a little bit about that movie.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Teresa is a professional singer, and a great one at that. And she was standing on the corner of 34th and Park in Manhattan, like any other pedestrian, mid-afternoon, waiting for the light to change. And a driver was legally impaired, not even drunk, legally impaired, made an illegal U-turn, which caused an accident, which ripped her leg off at the hip. This is a full-length documentary. Story.
Whoa.
And so she's bleeding to death on a Manhattan sidewalk in the, just a pedestrian, just standing there. She was not in a vehicle. And a dentist, of all people, happened to be walking by, and dentists are trained in cardiopulmonary resuscitation. In the 1 in a million chance, a patient's heart stops because of the nitrous or whatever the case may be, the anesthesia. So he's pumping her heart, and everybody thinks she's dead, and she ends up in a coma for almost a week, and she wakes up, her family's around her, and listen, we got bad news. And so, you're a beautiful young singer. She looks like Julia Roberts, and you wake up and your leg is gone, and you're kind of like, how do I rationalize just being in the wrong place at the wrong time? How do I, go on?
Right.
Physically, psychologically, emotionally. And she has about 6 months of rehab. She has a $100,000 prosthetic, and she learns to walk again. And she says, you know what? I'm going to try to make something positive out of this. And she sings and talks to wounded warriors and trauma victims around the world, literally around the world. And we shot this in 4 states. And Gary Sinise does similar work. He does a lot of concerts. He's a musician, and he was gracious enough to appear in the movie. And Lanny Poffo, who's a dear friend of mine, I said, listen, Lanny, Teresa's doing a concert on the 7th anniversary of her accident, because instead of this being a horrible day of mourning, she wanted to make it a triumph, recovering from something horrendous. And Lanny does the most heart-wrenching poem at the concert, which is the climactic scene in the movie. And it's like, I knew it. I said, Lanny's going to steal this movie, and he kind of did. So, and we've had a lot of nice response. Whatever your politics are, anyway, we have generals on the right, and we have Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama on the left. They've all endorsed this film. And HBO's endorsed it, and we're taking it to Edge Hill University in England in February, and Manchester University, and it's not going to be the Avengers or Spider-Man. It's
hey Evan, did I end up offending you when I kind of bagged a little bit on Lanny Poffo the other night? I want to apologize if I did. I didn't want to come off that way.
No, look. Ben and I have, it seems, pretty similar politics. And, when you go on social media and you speak your mind and you're honest, I understand that. I understand that. We might have a different perception on his career, and, that's fine. But
Sure.
I'm talking about Lanny, the human being.
Sure.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
We can also you can hear you on Legends Radio, legendsradio.net. It's an internet radio show that you do on a weekly basis. Tell folks a little bit about your podcast that you do.
Sure. I was listening to you guys from the first moment tonight, and I said, these guys, and they remind me of like a younger me. You guys are kind of all over the place in a good way. So
Thank you.
I was very impressed. You're going from wrestling to politics. You're all over the map, which is good, because if someone's an intelligent adult, I think, the listeners will handle that. Initially, we really lean more towards the wrestling. We've had all the biggest legends on. We have Superfly Snooker coming on, not tomorrow, the following Wednesday, and he's very rarely on the radio. And so we've gotten tons of wrestling legends. But over the years, I'm like, wow, I'd like to interview some R&B legends. I'd like to interview some jazz legends. I'd like to interview some acting legends, and etc. So it's more eclectic, it's more diverse than just wrestling per se. But inevitably, being an old school wrestling fan, I'm sure tomorrow we'll talk about that nightmarish edition of Raw, that 20th anniversary of Raw, which had almost nothing to offer. It felt like any other episode except for the film clips for the most part.
Yeah, other than Ric Flair, you really didn't get anything that made you feel like. And they're usually good about those.
And now, am I supposed to just accept now that the Miz is going to do the figure 4 leg lock because like Ric Flair passed it down to him? Is that what's happening? Did that happen last night?
Flair passed the baton to the Miz, and the Miz dropped it.
Yeah, but like from this point forward, that'll be his finisher now, right? Is the figure four leg?
Who knows? That guy,
I'm calling it now.
He's nothing special. Nothing special. I mean, I grew up on Flair and Bruno and Harley Race, and then you have the Miz. He looks like any guy walking down the street. There's just something missing. I'm not saying he's awful or anything, but
Sure.
It's just something missing.
I know you when we were on your show, you talked to us a little bit about the Hall of Fame. Rumors now this week coming out. Looks like King Kong Bundy is going to get into the Hall of Fame. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Bundy was a big star. I mean, he's a bigger star than some of the guys that went in, like Coco Beware and like Vince McMahon Sr.'s limo driver,
Right.
and other guys that went in, and he's a lesser name than certain other guys. So I don't have any problem with Bundy. I mean, I know Bundy. Bundy's like gruff but good-hearted. I like him, and I'm happy for him.
Well, Evan, we wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show, and again, thank you for having us on your show. We definitely suggest that anyone that listens to our show definitely checks out your show. You can check out that radio show, legendsradio.net. Also, good luck with Teresa, and I'm going to say the name wrong again. Teresa, what is it? Sario, Alive Again. You could check out all the information about that at aliveagainmovie.com.
It really sounds incredible.
Yeah, definitely want to check that out.
Thank you so much, guys. And I'm tentatively supposed to have Andrew Dice Clay on tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And the Sklar brothers. I don't know if you've ever seen these guys, but these guys are hilarious. They've done parodies of wrestling on ESPN, and
okay.
These guys are sharp.
And definitely, I do want to say thanks too. There's a little kind of side story that you were communicating back and forth with Ben, and he had asked you, to listen to some of our stuff and give us some feedback. And normally you get okay, yeah, and then you never hear from the people again, And you actually hit him back right away and had some really good feedback.
Oh, yeah,
and I just want to say thanks again.
You guys have something there. I'm not saying it to buddy up. I mean, you have intelligent political discourse. You have good guests. I listen to some wrestling, quote unquote wrestling podcasts, and you just cringe. And you guys. I mean, you sound like you've been doing this for 10 years. I'm really impressed by it, and I think you just have to understand that when you're doing political discourse, you kind of going to cut your audience in half. Half of them are going to love it, and half of them are going to hate it.
Right.
But so what?
Sure.
As long as it's done intelligently, and it's part of what's going on in America today. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah, and as long as we don't cram the same topic down their throat week after week. I think we kind of spend time on a topic, and then we jump and we move to the next. We keep up with local or what's going on today, but ultimately we kind of bounce around for that same reason. We don't want to kill it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I watch Bill Maher regularly, but, how many times is he going to say, I love weed, I hate religion? You beat it to death after a while. It's like you made your point, Bill. It's not funny anymore. I get you.
Well, thanks again, Evan. We appreciate you spending time with us. You're definitely a friend of the show, and we definitely suggest people seek out your stuff and support you, okay? Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, guys.
All right, take care, Evan.
Bye-bye.
Evan Ginsberg. Definitely check out aliveagainmovie.com to check out more information on that incredible story. Can you imagine you're this singer and you're involved in this freak accident where you lose your fucking leg? Ugh.
Just imagine. I mean, dude, honestly, losing your leg, the whole world is new.
Yeah.
Like, when that happens, do you just go on disability and you live with disability? I mean, what happens if you have no money?
Yeah.
What happens?
You go on disability, sure, and the government starts paying for you.
Well, I wonder what that is. What do you get paid? I mean,
it can't be a lot.
But let me ask you a question. Let's say you get hurt and you're in a certain situation. Like, they don't keep your lifestyle going for you, right? You get subsidized.
No, definitely. Because I deal with a lot of people in the car business. When they want to buy cars, they're on disability.
Sure.
And that's not a lot. It's not a lot of money.
Let me ask you really fast, and then we'll kind of taper into our mystery guest that it seems to be 99% confirmed at this point.
Yeah.
What do you think about TNA going on to 4 pay-per-views?
We talked about this on the show about
they teased it too, saying they were only going to eliminate 2, and then they came back and they said we're eliminating everything but 4.
But what? Then they're doing these weird Friday pay-per-views.
They've already filmed them.
It's weird. I only saw 2 of them.
Yeah, they filmed both of them already, and now they're going to go out. I believe like aftermarket. If they were smart, they wouldn't do a pay-per-view thing. They would do like almost like just a free thing on the website, just to get people to go there and see it. Stop charging for a second. But from what I read, it's $11,000 to $30,000 per pay-per-view on the average of the ones they eliminated. So that is some revenue. I mean, that is revenue. But when you look at it, like you're going to gain that same amount on the bigger pay-per-views and get the same amount by doing less.
You would think so. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. One of the 2 companies had to do it and try it.
Yeah, and I think it's smart on their end, and it'll be interesting. It's too bad they didn't make the announcement right after Bound for Glory, and you could have waited for this pay-per-view because they made it, and then they had a pay-per-view, and it was just kind of like no one gave a shit about this pay-per-view.
Wait, you told us we weren't going to have a pay-per-view.
Yeah, and then we have one. It's TNA. That's what they do. They make it happen at the wrong times, and
their
you think it's going to happen, and it doesn't happen. But I will say this, and Joseph Park, this is just you have no idea right now what they've done, right? As far as last I told you, he went to wrestling school,
right? And I know that he came back and he wrestled Devon at the pay-per-view.
Okay, so up to this point, like it went week by week, which was genius. And so the first week he goes to OVW, right? And he's there and he's in his suit and he doesn't know to have his gear. Well, he gets in the ring and they kind of walk around and he goes, "No, practice is now." So he's training in his suit. Okay, so then the next week they come back and they go to him and he's first like, I'm really getting this. So you think he's now going to show him doing stuff. But he gets in the ring and all the boys and the other people getting interviewed that are there, they're like, he's never going to do this. So it's like he's bad at it, right? So he gets in the ring and he's just as bad, and then he's trying to take chops and he can't do it, and they do that for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
And he progresses very like the littlest bit each week, and then by the last week, he busts everybody up and he does the big turn and the big thing, and then he comes back to the Impact Zone trained. And so far, I'm not kidding. This is my favorite gimmick of this generation. This is my favorite gimmick.
It's incredible.
It's awesome.
We can't gush about it enough. The attention to detail is incredible. And
if it was being done in WWE, people would be raving about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
being done where no one's watching
stage.
it. Yeah, no one's watching it.
If you do something really awesome and no one's there to see it, did it really happen?
And TNA's not good at getting their overall segments storylines over. People are just kind of like, all right, get to the wrestling, because your storylines suck. Just get to the fucking. Everybody has 5 plans. We always say like they take 2 guys and they go, all right, which plan is it? The Dusty finish? Is it the heel over? Is it the baby over? Is there a weird storyline? No. All right, that's what we have. And then they just puke it all over the roster, and that's how they end up doing everything.
I didn't see it, but you did. Jay Bradley, a guy that we know. He was part of the gut check with Brian Cage.
This is where gut check overall looked better. Both guys look like they belong on television. So when you're watching it, you're not going like they had a few gut checks in a row where you were just
Alex Silva and
not even him. Worse than that. I mean, kids that were like 18 that just don't do it because they're 8. Like the gimmick was he was 18 and we're showing you anybody gets a chance. But when he got in there, it was just like any 18-year-old kid. He was terrible. He was fucking terrible.
Of course.
And then they had a kid. This was the best. They never really went to the crowd to say, so-and-so has a significant other in the crowd. Well, this guy they brought there, and his wife was in the crowd, and she had her baby. She's sitting in the crowd, and he's fucking terrible. And I'm not kidding. I mean, like, he can't do anything. and he was wrestling Doug Williams, I think, or something. I don't recall. But
how do you suck wrestling
he's
Doug
having
Williams?
And it's a 5-minute TV easy match with Doug Williams rolling deal over, I believe. Whatever it was, right? He fucks it up, and they tell him no. So they have his wife in the crowd, and the minute they say no, the camera goes from in the ring to her and the baby, and they're just sitting there. I'm like, that was done on purpose.
Right.
They brought a guy in that sucked, that had a baby, brought the wife, because they never showed the
significant other.
Never.
Right. You never get the crowd shot.
Never. And I don't think they've done it since. So awesome booking. That's a great
on
idea.
their thing. They are doing it pretty decently, and they even did the storyline with Joey Ryan to get him as part of the roster, and like
Matt Morgan's the shit too, man. He
Really?
looks cool. He's got a rugged ass beard and he's in great shape, and he's real serious. And then they did a thing last week where he had a loophole how he got out of wrestling Hernandez. He should have just smashed him like a jobber and kept going with the train because that's how they were pushing him. He's gonna end up doing something with Hogan. He stole Hogan's robe from the movie Thunder, was it Thunderlips? He stole
from
Thunderlips.
Rocky 3, yeah.
Either that or it was from like his original robe, whatever it is, but he stole it from like the restaurant that he has.
Okay.
And he's been wearing it to the ring, and now he has gold trunks and gold knee pads and gold boots like the gold robe.
Oh,
and,
really?
Yeah, and he's basically going after Hogan eventually. He's gonna, and it's not going to be a match, but it's
Okay,
definitely
good, because I don't want to see that at all.
It's going to be something where, because they keep running into each other, and it's like exactly what you think it's me. But he's going to put a stamp on Morgan. He's very Sid Vicious.
They already broke him and Joey Ryan up, right? I mean,
I don't think so.
It was, or they're going down that road.
The pay-per-view.
They're going down that road because Joey, like,
dude, I'm not kidding when I say they're very Diesel Shawn Michaels from 1994ish, and it's cool. And I don't know why they should just kind of let it play out and sit there for a minute. Because Matt Morgan's in the world title picture. He's not going to beat Jeff Hardy. He's going to job to him. And I'm over Jeff Hardy. I'm over it. And I'm over what they did to Austin Aries, man. He was like so over and so awesome. And then they started making him do character stuff, and it just fell apart.
Now he stopped
sucks.
being the cool underdog guy. Are we going to the next story, or are we going to go to the next guest? Are we going to take a break? Okay.
I say guess. Let's roll through.
Okay, not a problem. This is the mystery guest. If this actually goes through and happens, I will be so happy. But he put it on his Facebook, so we can say we're going to get a chance to talk. It was kind of teased on our ITR.
Let's not say
Facebook
the
page.
net. Yeah, if they saw it, they saw it. First, we'll just say hello and see if we actually get them through. Now, remember, we only do this for special guests. The actual call in directly. Let it ringy dingy, the whole deal. Normally, we try to make it sound more professional. This is why we don't like to.
Yeah, this is. Maybe he's taking a shit.
Hey, maybe.
Hello?
Hey, is this Teddy?
How are you?
Teddy, hey, man. This is Vito Tomaselli and Ben Jordan on In the Rotation. How are you?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah, who's this?
This is Vito Tomaselli and Ben Jordan with In the Rotation Radio. How are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Doing awesome. At this time, we'd like to formally introduce our next guest here on In the Rotation, the one and only, the legendary Teddy Hart from the legendary Hart family. He's got a big pay-per-view coming up this Friday. Teddy, tell us a little bit about Hart Legacy Wrestling, if you can.
It's a promotion that myself, Harry Smith, Jack Evans, basically it was kind of an idea we had about maybe 7 years ago, but with contracts and a lot of us trying to get to the WWE at the time and basically other goals, we didn't have the chance. And there really wasn't a lot of guys, I think, that had kind of turned to that new style. And now that there's so many guys that do everything, and like I said, moonsault's something that almost anyone does now. Before, say, 10 years ago, it was a rare move. And certain head drops and combos I talk about a lot about the guys doing their homework, and they're studying the moves and the way guys get up, and they're turning wrestling back into a science, which is nice to see. So I kind of wanted to try to find those guys and their hard-working attitudes and loyal. Most of the time, they're very loyal, and they follow these promoters to the end of the world. They don't make a lot of money. I wanted to provide something where they could come up, potentially make a little more money than they're making anywhere else, and have that same style, but have it exposed by the right people and showcased on a worldwide level. And iPay-per-view with technology blessing us the way it does these days. We can have an iPay-per-view and the whole world can watch, and hopefully they'll see a show that is a little different. And being different then makes us unique, and if it's unique and good, hopefully we'll have an audience that sticks with us.
Now, is the ultimate goal to compete with the indie promotions that are out there now, the Ring of Honors, the Evolves, the Dragon Gate USAs? I mean, is that the goal where you guys want to be? Is that where you see you guys kind of slotting into the wrestling world?
Just that you mentioned those companies, that's exactly the kind of style that I like. I really liked what Gabe's done and Sal and the Dragon's Gate USA guys and the Dragon's Gate guys, but I'll go on to the same sense of no matter how good their show is, wrestling in front of 150 people doesn't come across looking professional. So I wish Gabe and Sal the best of luck. And I try to copy a lot of the stuff they do, but I don't think they were the ones that originally came up with that style. It was more like the Ring of Honor hybrid, and Gabe was there when that was basically started. And that was like Paul London and Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, and Austin Aries was there kind of near the end of it. But Paul London, I think Spanky, Low Key, Homicide, there's a lot of those guys. And those guys are still available now. And besides the TNA talent that we can use, but we can't showcase on the iPay-per-view, this is an opportunity to work with everyone in the world, basically, and give some odd, some unique matchups, which I think Gabe does. But again, without the building being full of people, it lacks that certain authenticity of a real show. And because those guys, I don't know if it's in their, I don't know why or the reasoning behind it, but it doesn't seem like they take care of the boys financially enough. And I'm not trying to bitch or point fingers at anybody, but it just seems like the amount of work they do, they're not getting paid properly for their time and effort. And these guys are killing themselves. I mean,
so what's going to be the difference?
Fox, Samurai Del Sol, El Generico, the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla show, to me, is probably the best overall show I see out there. And always entertains me. Love watching it. It's a shame that I have heat with Super Dragon, because I guess I didn't recognize the guy. I never knew he didn't have him. I didn't know what he looked like without his mask on. And I made a comment or something. Sometimes I have a big mouth. Tried to work on it over the years. But another thing, send out to that PWG and Super Dragon and whoever else runs that company. They've done a phenomenal job. That's what we're trying to do. Not exactly copy it. We're using some more heavyweights and a little different style. Alberta is known for certain kind of wrestling, like I say, and that's the wrestling that those guys have made famous. And they have 250 people in their building or whatever, 300. We're hoping to get maybe 12, 1,500 people in a real tight little building, and they get to feel that magic that I think we've lost. And that's something we need to recreate, which is hard-hitting wrestling, a lot of really good high spots, a lot of death-defying moves that no one else on earth is doing, and that makes, like I say, the audience go, I want to watch that because I can't see that anywhere else. And if we can do that, then we become a successful product and an alternative, and hopefully that'll then push the WWE in the direction that I hope it's slowly going into, which is more about athletics and the complete package. And with our show, I hope there's a lot of big guys that are in the gym, freaks. I want the freaks. I want the biggest, baddest motherfuckers on the earth. I'm sorry if I can't swear in the radio.
No, go ahead, man. Uncensored, buddy.
Go ahead.
So, and I'm looking for gymnasts. I'm looking for breakdancers. I'm looking for parkour guys that have big balls that aren't afraid to challenge the world, that aren't afraid to challenge the limits of what the human body can possibly do, that fear nothing. And I say the only fear I have is watching a bunch of guys with more talent than me get fucked over like me for basically being talented and having a voice and some balls to point out the obvious, that I don't want to watch Steve Carino with a pot belly go to fucking Japan 9 times in a row when I've seen like 9 guys who could outwork the guy, kick the shit out of him in a street fight, fuck him in the ass in a jail cell. And that's just one of about 20 guys I see that I call cholesterol clogs. This is like 6-7 years ago. That was my complaint. And because I had certain incidences with guys like AJ Styles' movesets, very similar movesets, and I'm not one of those guys, like I say, that's going to go in there and change my moves because some guy that's kissing Bill Barron's ass, who's extremely talented, but doing a lot of ass kissing. I'm not doing the ass kissing those guys were doing. I'm sorry that I wasn't that political. I didn't have my uncles in there. They were dead to pull strings for me. So I did what I could do, which was revolutionize a style. Jack Evans was one of the guys that revolutionized that style. Ricochet is one of the guys that revolutionized. Pac from England is one of the guys that revolutionized that style. Flip Kendrick has mastered that style. Samurai Del Sol, El Generico. These are guys, if the WWE hasn't woken up and taken names, they better start, because those are the guys risking their life, and the fans are smart enough to know, like CM Punk saying, you got a bunch of morons in the building. Perhaps you do, but you got a bunch of geniuses at home watching, and they're watching carefully with slow motion HD TV with 90 fucking 6-inch screens going, that shit. He missed the punch. That kick sucked. I've seen that fucking suplex 90 fucking thousand times. Modify it. Grab a leg. Grab an arm. Change it up. Make it look real. There's the MMA guys murdering themselves, and I got the wrestling chanting same old shit. Same old shit. Yet they then blame the schedule, which they purposely gave those guys the schedule, knowing it was impossible. But they didn't book the athletics, the guys. They didn't book athletics. They booked guys for other reasons. So you got a bunch of racehorses that really weren't racehorses running a fucking race they're never going to finish. And that's my complaint, and that's why I created this show. So guys that wanted to do crazy shit, that didn't want to be abused, that hear, oh, that guy can do a double moonsault. Have him do 40 double moonsaults. It's like the fucking guy who's telling you never wrestled a day in his life. He's an internet mark. He's selling tapes.
keeping fucking $300,000 a year in his pocket while they hide in Florida and they pay guys $150 and act like they're doing you a favor because they buy you an airplane ticket. That's fucking shit. And I'm tired of watching the guys get force-fed shit in wrestling. I like CM Punk because he's got the balls to point out the obvious right now. They're saying he's the voice of the silent. It's like I'm the most silent motherfucker with the biggest voice out there, and I'm talking about all the guys that risk their life. I'm not talking about me. I'm not saying watch Teddy Hart. I'm saying watch these other guys that have gone out there and innovated, created a style where a style is almost impossible to create because it's copied quickly. These guys are so good, you can't copy what the fuck they do. Oh, you'll kill yourself. And
so, you know, you had,
the guys, sorry?
You had mentioned CM Punk, and there's obviously that story where you guys got into it down at TNA. What is the Teddy Hart side of that story?
I never get into that story too much. CM Punk was the only guy with the balls. He strapped on his balls. Samoa Joe, I'd like to see the guy for real. They all talk tough. In a jail cell with me at 200 pounds, he's 260. We'll have a chat. But no, don't drop me on my head in the fucking ring with Hernandez and Homicide in a steel cage and Jersey All-Pro like you're a tough guy. That's taking advantage of the rules of wrestling. I see all these guys, they act like tough guys and they take advantage of the situation, but I personally think that's kind of bullying to me. What was your question exactly? Is CM Punk the one guy with the balls that lived his dream, that fucking took a contract from Ring of Honor, basically went to TNA, had the balls to step outside with the fucking devil's son himself, and walked out, like I say, I think about 2 years later, saw me, shook my head in the airport. And whatever he had to say in the meantime, between that fight and between when he shook my hand, that's wrestling promo. And he knows when you step in the street with me, I'm a dangerous guy, man, because anything could happen, and I'm fucking nuts. Because you could watch my moves, and I believe that much in God, and I believe that much in the people. So they think I'm crazy because I believe in God and the people. I guess I'm nuts. But CM Punk had the balls to step outside, and he fought the battle for every one of those pussy motherfuckers that cried about me doing a couple extra spots in Ring of Honor. The people were cheering Ring of Honor. The fans were happy. You can swerve it all you want. I'm glad some people know I didn't go out of my way to blackball Ring of Honor. I tried to put Ring of Honor on the map. It was the day my grandfather was buried. I think it was the next day I got on a plane. I went out there and I tried to do my job. CM Punk was the guy that had the most to say because he was the voice of the locker room, because I guess they probably came up with a consensus that he was the only guy smart enough and potentially with the balls to walk outside. And maybe a bunch of guys wanted to see if CM Punk was going to be the guy. And sorry to say to everybody out there that CM Punk, he probably didn't fare as well as he should have, but either did I, because you never win in a fight. I would have rather shook the guy's hand and smoked a joint, but he's straight edge, or I would have rather had a beer with the guy, but he doesn't drink. So a cup of hot chocolate at Starbucks would sound kind of faggy, but even a cup of coffee at Starbucks with CM Punk would have been pretty cool at the end of the day. Instead of two guys basically fighting for some promoter who told one guy one story and another guy another story. And if you want to blame anybody, blame Feinstein for that shit. And I still love Feinstein, and I still love Ring of Honor, but those guys created quite the fucking mess for me.
What happened?
Like I say, Teddy Hart's a mess causer himself, but they caused quite the mess for me. It's taken me about 10 years, almost to this day now, to get everyone back in a room and ask these guys an opinion of me after they've worked for me. Is Teddy Hart a nice guy? Did he pay you more than anyone else? Did he do the moves he said he was going to do, and then he asked you to do those same moves instead of a guy that does nothing and then asks you to do everything? It's a hypocrite. But my thing with CM Punk is CM Punk, I got nothing but respect for the guy. You can look at the guy's face. He's fucking tired, but he's focused. And he's got to look like a machine right now. And he's like Benoit to me right now. He's one of those guys that he fucking lives, sleeps, and eats wrestling. Or he lives, sleeps, and breathes wrestling. And a guy that does that, I got nothing but respect for. And I'll be the first guy to say to CM Punk, if he wasn't doing his job, wake the fuck up and do your job. But he's doing his job better than anybody in there. And he's having nice interviews, concise interviews to the point with facts. And he's backing his facts up every single time. Constant substance. So no, to me, right now, my thing with CM Punk is keep opening the door for guys. Keep helping The Shield get on TV. Keep helping Chris Hero get on TV. Keep helping Pac get on TV. Keep mentioning Tyson Kidd's name on TV. He's doing the right thing. He's fighting the battles that guys like me can't fight, and hopefully down the road he'll have the common sense to bring me in and have a match with him, because I'm the one guy that he hasn't had the match with yet.
Can you give us
beating everyone else? He's never beat Teddy Hart.
You had mentioned Tyson Kidd. Can you give us an update of there's possible surgery rumor going around?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what has gone on there. I've been busy running this show here, trying to basically provide a secondary place for Tyson Kidd to work in case he doesn't want to work with WWE anymore, because they have a hard time figuring out the puzzle with him. And I love the WWE, and I very rarely knock the WWE ever because, like I say, I don't know how their whole thing works, and you can't really talk about something unless you've worked there and been successful and made money. And I've never made money there, and I've never been successful there. So I'll sound like a retard, shoot my mouth off too much. But I think it's a common sense or consensus that everyone in the company realized that Tyson Kidd was one of the most talented guys ever, and he wasn't being used properly. And after a long time, maybe his confidence, from what I see, his confidence was through the roof because the guy never stopped hitting the gym, and he looked like $1 million. So he always looked in the mirror and he looked good that way. But I'm sure his confidence was a little hurt, or his feelings were a little hurt, that they couldn't find something more for him. A guy that, to me, had the same pedigree, if not better, same credentials, same blueprint as American Dragon and CM Punk. He was in the same indie shows. He basically worked Stampede, New Japan, instead of ROH and Dragon's Gate. But he paid his dues, never, ever, ever missed a show, was never late, never did a drug, never smoked a cigarette, never fucking drank alcohol that I know of in WWE. Maybe had a beer or something, but I never saw the guy drink a fucking sip of alcohol while I knew him. I've known him since he was 5 years old, so... just an absolute shame. Question is, with the surgery, I have no clue because I haven't got anyone to actually give me a distinctive answer or definitive answer of what actually happened. I heard like something he slipped and he tore his ACL, his MCL, and then I heard he broke his leg or crushed his kneecap and did that. So like, I don't know. I'm waiting for an update. I keep texting him, and I keep getting these weird texts back, and I don't know what's going on with the texts. So that's where I'm at with that situation. Again, I send my prayers out to Tyson Kidd. I think everyone in wrestling that knows Tyson Kidd says that guy's one of the most stand-up, quality people you'll ever meet on the planet. And it's a blessing to know him and get in the ring with him, and you always learn something from him. One of the best wrestlers ever, I think. And hopefully he heals up fast, just like Adrian Peterson, and comes back and fucking tears everyone a new asshole.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned there, you going back to WWE and wrestling CM Punk, because that's the one guy he hasn't had that confrontation with. Do you think that there's still a time where you'll get your chance to be there and be on that big stage still again?
Hello?
You got us, Teddy?
Can you hear us?
Second, guys. I'm trying to... Can you repeat that question? I'm so sorry. I just got the tail of it. Something about the WWE?
Yeah, you mentioned that, you mentioned there that possibly wrestling CM Punk, in the future. Do you think that the door is still open and that you'll still have that opportunity to be on that stage again?
I think the door is potentially always open. It's more like getting Brett to maybe open his eyes and realize that there's some guys in Canada that he should get behind, and that if he was willing to bring Glenn Kolka and Rick Titan and Big George and Christian and Edge and all these other guys in before, that maybe he could do it again in the future, and maybe he could bring his own son in. And I'll train his son to the best of my abilities in the short period of time that I have to train him. Hopefully that will convince Brett that I'm someone he could trust with the name that he did create. He did spend a lot of time and hard work making the Hart name what it was with the help of Vince McMahon. I don't want to go in and just act like I deserve to use the name, but I've done a lot of work and I've done a lot of moves, and Brett's never really given me the respect I deserve as a wrestler, because I don't think Brett's ever really sat down carefully and watched me wrestle. And I think what I did scared Brett. And Brett in his best day, even though he told the greatest stories in wrestling and his selling was absolutely phenomenal, Brett really didn't do a lot in the ring. And he was a master, a magician, because the schedule was so difficult of doing less is more. And I liked it, and I always watched it, but I always liked Shawn Michaels a little better, and I'm sure that eats Brett alive every time he hears me say that, because he knows Shawn's the one guy that got him.
I think that
always bothers Brett a little bit, and until that happens with me and Brett bearing the hatchet, there's always going to be some guy shit disturbing behind the scenes secretively, like Brett in the WWE behind the scenes. Because if Brett was singing my praises, I think we would have had me, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit. I'm pretty sure it'd still be alive. Tyson Kidd would be on TV. Jack Evans would have been on TV. Harry Smith would have been on TV. And a bunch of guys would have got to look like Batista and Brock Lesnar. Instead, they came up with a magic juice policy out of nowhere and prevented a bunch of guys from looking the part, that every other guy got to look the part. So you wonder why the wrestlers look worse than they used to. It's because they're not allowed to do any of the stuff they used to get to do. And they act like it's the drugs. Those same drugs, you can pass your piss test on coke and the shitty other things they do. So they didn't actually prevent anything except for guys that smoke pot from smoking pot. And anyone that wants a prescription for painkillers has to go through their doctor now instead of buying it on the street. That, to me, hasn't solved any problems. All they've done is hire guys that really don't do anything anyway, so they're not going to have to take super bumps to have to take a painkiller or want to smoke a joint. So they really have no criteria in their company to, demand that their guys do more, so they're not going to need any meditation devices to help them out. Sure. I don't know if I got off rant or off
Hey,
off subject again.
Let me ask you, what's the Hart family like now that, they've definitely had some tragedy over the last few years? Is the family held together now? How is the overall Hart family?
I don't know. I would say that it's okay. I'm working on certain things to try to always get the family to go back together, but it's tough when someone like Brett and Jim Neidhart lives in Florida and Harry's in Japan all the time. So, and one of the other people that really holds the family together is Natty Neidhart, and she's been treated like shit on TV for no apparent reason at all. I don't know what you could do to win people over more than she does. She's another unbelievable wrestler and great person, but like I say, I haven't figured out the mystery in WWE.
What was the reason with the fart gimmick with Natty? I mean, really, what was the point behind that, and what was she thinking when all that was going on?
You'd have to ask her that, man. I can't imagine why they'd have a midget walking out to the ring, why they'd kill Chris Masters off, why they'd kill fucking Bobby Lashley off, why they'd kill Teddy Hart off, why they'd kill Harry Smith off, why they'd leave certain characters on TV, why they'd bring back a guy that's been brought back 40 fucking times, but, like, that's just their style. I think they like to kill wrestling secretively and then act like later they've all of a sudden changed it, because if they don't kill it for a while, I guess they can't save it.
Sure.
So maybe that's their game, is that they have that much power and they're that smart. Hopefully they are. I keep thinking they are. I keep praying they are. And I keep hoping someday maybe they'll watch a video of me and go, holy shit, that guy might be able to make us money. He didn't cause any more problems than Jeff Hardy. Or I don't think he's ever done coke or got fucked up like half the guys in their locker room did before. I don't know who's in their locker room now, but I can imagine in the past, guys they've hired, pushed, that have been dead or already are dead, but walking dead when they were there, somehow all considered reliable enough to stamp their face on a fucking T-shirt. But again, I'm thinking more conspiracy of Teddy Hart's not supposed to be stuck in a WWE contract, wasting time putting Jake, whatever his name over, Jake Haggard over in FCW or a bunch of other guys kind of using me as an eraser, with Steve Kern, who never did shit in his career, asking me to do shooting star press after shooting star press after shooting star press in a dojo. To me, it's like, sounds like abuse of power. Why would you ask a guy to do this shit 40 times when it's not necessary? I hope they don't do that to Pac. Yeah. Where it's like before it counts, they make him do all of this stuff, and he ends up getting a sore knee, and it's like, oh, well, we're really sorry, but he's got to go in for knee surgery because we used him like an eraser, like Tyson Kidd.
Yeah, what happened with Teddy Hart? What was the final thing with WWE? What got you out of your contract?
I would hope God got me out of my contract at the end of the day, because it was one of those things I really wanted to be there, but making $500 a week in Florida with a $300 a month or $300 a week food bill, and you're doing indie shows where Steve Pritchard or Steve Kern and Tom Pritchard are relying on the gate money from fucking 200 people at some fucking bar so they can line their pockets, because they're not making enough down there either. They ask you to do some moves because they want the live fans in the building to be happy. And then Steve Kern didn't have the balls to tell Bruce Pritchard that he said to do these moves. But if you really think I was fired for doing a backflip, then fuck, you're like CM Punk said. You're probably pretty naive. I don't think I was ever supposed to be on TV in WWE ever. So I think it's just one of those things where if you get Teddy Hart high enough on the mountain and you tell him, listen, The Rock's blueprint is basically the same as your blueprint, except you actually have street credibility, and you went to jail and you got out of jail and you're a hustler and you made money without wrestling. You had $1 million house and $1 million fucking lifestyle before wrestling and after wrestling and during wrestling, and you went to Mexico during a drug war and survived. So I think they basically let Teddy Hart go out and expand the Hart name, because Brett's been sleeping for the last 10 years or whatever he's been doing. So there's nothing I can really do without Brett, like I say, getting behind me. And if he's not going to get behind his own kids, there's nothing he's going to do for me.
Well, Teddy, let me ask you, in the history books, when it's all said and done, time passes, where do you fit into the Hart, say, overall pecking order of workhorse? Like they say, Brett obviously had the biggest fame, and no one at this point, I mean, it'd be very difficult to touch him. But at the end of the day, where do you fit in?
someday. I don't think about the Hart family. I'm hoping someday there's like a top 5 list of wrestlers in the world that people just constantly overlook. But at a certain time, God, the people, the truth, reality, because it's all based on truth and reality now. The world doesn't want to hear bullshit. They want fucking truth. They want someone to peel back the onion skin and show them the fact. So the facts are, to me, these are guys that risk their lives that are on my show. Unequivocally, they're the best guys in the world because people are going to vote after this with their voices and with their opinion. And they're going to say either Ted Hart's full of shit, these guys suck, or they're going to say, like everyone else usually says, these guys are phenomenal. Gabe's a genius putting those combinations of guys together. But a genius to me also makes sure you use clean water to fucking fertilize your soil and water your grass. Because you don't want to be giving your guys shit, which is no motivation if you can't pay them more than $150 to kill themselves. No, all I'm trying to say is that there's a little working together, and we can get more money for the boys and better entertainment for the fans. That's what Teddy Hart's always stood by, and I've always tried to die. You watch my videos, I'm a guy with a decent lifestyle without wrestling, and I've always tried to risk my life because I know how hard it is to be the average person spending $50 on a ticket. And I'd hate to get jerked off at a hockey game or a basketball game because wrestling's not real. You're expected to swallow some pill of shit and not complain. No. And I think, like I say, wrestling, because it's not a real sport, it should have the highest criteria for making people happy and trying to give the fans what they want. Instead of telling fans we're going to give you what you want, but they never, ever, ever listen to the fans ever. To me, we're still in the same old wrestling ring. Change the wrestling ring. It's not like basketball where you have to have that court, and I'm sure they've modified the court, they've modified the shoe. With wrestling, it's the same old boot, the same old spandex, Morrison added some sparkles for shit, but basically they've never changed the ring. To me, that's the next thing. Adding a cage does not change the ring. I'm talking about diving board style turnbuckles where you can jump, and instead of getting a foot jump or jumping less because they're set up by some moron in Mexico, the ring does its job, and it makes you jump higher, and it's actually protecting you. Some of these high spots rings now, the ECW ring, those rings are phenomenal to bump in, but they don't allow me to jump any higher. So I'd like a ring that allows me to jump higher. If I can come up with a surface outside the ring that allows me to land harder on the concrete, but make it look like I'm, killing myself, but obviously not truly killing myself because I can't get up and do the show the next day if I'm dead.
No, absolutely.
So that kind of shit to me. And the technological advances of wrestling, I hope WWE's listening to this, and if they give a shit of what I have to say, who the fuck knows? I really don't care. I'm speaking for those few people, like I say, the few fans out there that like hardcore wrestling without guys going through 100 tables. 2 or 3 is cool. Barbed wire, when it's ready and it means something, absolutely. I don't know about thumbtacks to me. I'm not really into that one, but I mean, once in a blue moon, if you had Nectar Busher come in and walk on a bunch of thumbtacks, I'm down for that match. I'm open for almost anything. Mixed tags. I love a girl going in there and kicking the shit out of a guy, and a guy going in there and beating the shit out of a girl, but done properly, as artists, gracefully, with some cool moves, instead of just brutality. Nothing's worse than just brutality to me. That's why I watch Ultimate Fighting, because I want to see brutality, and then I want to see skill. And those guys have the best skill and brutality in the world, so I watch that show and I love it. But wrestling's supposed to be for athletics and acrobatics and timing and character development and seeing cool shit that you can't see in the Ultimate Fighting because it's just not going to allow that to happen. You're not going to see a guy put his head around another guy's legs and climb up to the top ropes and give the guy a Frankensteiner. So be happy with wrestling for what it is. Appreciate the art and the beauty of it. And if we don't back it up, guys, and start getting, the real people behind wrestling against some major sponsors besides the same old shit, we're going to lose wrestling, I think. That's my hope in my prayer to the world and everyone listening to interviews that have any power, TV people, that wrestling, like I say, could be the most entertaining sport on earth if you actually do the background stories on who these guys are, like the MMA guys do. The Ultimate Fighter, don't tell the story of a character on the show. Tell the story of who the guy really is, and that's the character of the show. And that's the make of a man and the mark of a man, because those are the guys that are going to be the next 10 years or 20 years of wrestling. If you show the people their characters now, where they came from and what their parents did and how they got here, I think it sets up some sort of relationship with the people and the people that are in the ring. And that's the next step to us, is developing really good characters. Like WWE used to have the best character development in the world. You ask anybody about Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, George Animal Steel, King Kong Bundy, Big John Studd, Andre the Giant, the Killer Bees, Demolition, Road Warriors, Ultimate Warrior, Paul Orndorff, Ken Patera, all those guys. You could go on and on. They're characters. People remember them for some reason. I don't remember half the fucking guys in these for the last 10 years or 15 years. Maybe it's in the smoking pot, but I don't think they're affecting my memory that bad. I just don't think the guys touched anybody.
No, absolutely. One thing I got from this interview so far is that you watch the indies, and one indie that I wanted to get your opinion on, because you talk about characters and character development. Have you checked out any Chikara? And if you have, what do you think of their product and what Mike Quackenbush has kind of built there?
Fuck, what a wrestler. Mike Quackenbush is phenomenal. What a wrestler. I never really watched him that much, and then I started watching some of his stuff, and one of the best guys for Yave and chain wrestling and innovation I've ever seen. I wish the guy hit the gym a bit more, to tell you the truth, or got on the juice for real, because then he might have a chance of actually making it. He probably will get in anyway, just because there's that little clique now of guys that, I don't know, all those Chris Hero, Claudio, Punk, Gabe sounds like he's got his fingers in there now pretty good, so that's good for them. I hope he gets a job, and I hope you're not, looking at me as an asshole later because you fucking heard nothing but the one bad thing I said, and all the good was ignored. I think the guy's one of the best guys I've ever seen. Innovative, went to Mexico, has his own promotion, supports the boys, but I don't think they hit hard enough in Jakarta a lot of the times. It looks a little too cutesy to me. It's not that raw, savage-looking CZW. Some of their matches, like I say, they have that rawness to it. That's my only complaint about Chikara, would be like it lacks a certain intensity. It looks like lucha wrestling to me, which is watching a show where a bunch of guys are kind of doing somersaults and flips and wearing funny masks. And if it was more along the lines of like, I think the wrestling itself is phenomenal, and the spots and the innovation is really good. It's just, for me, I think of wrestling as blood sport still, kind of, and I want that ECW feel where fans walk in and they're afraid of, some of these wrestlers, instead of hoping that the guy blows them a kiss or something. Yeah. And I don't know if that's like exactly the Chikara guys, but they look like comic book characters to me, more like Dragon Ball Z shit, and like more for along the lines of an 8-year-old audience to a 20-year-old audience, but not for a hardcore guy who just got out of jail, who wants to see two fucking guys kick the shit out of each other and then hit a twisting flip, because the guy did diving when he was a kid, so he respects a guy that actually climbs to the top ropes and doesn't do a senton bomb like every guy that's doing just a senton bomb. Look at Flip Kendrick shit. Look at Ricochet shit. Look at my old shit. Look at Jack Evans shit. Look at Samurai Del Sol. I could go on and probably with another 10 guys. Watch them and tell me what they do is not cool. If you tell me what they do is not cool, then I'm going to honestly call your bluff, because you're full of shit and you have no clue what the fuck cool is then.
If you could pick two guys on the indies right now that maybe you haven't had a match against, who and maybe it was you and Jack Evans in a tag match, who do you think, or maybe it's a singles match, who out there right now is out there that you want to work a match with?
Well, I always say Triple H and Shawn Michaels are the guys that I've been challenging, and everyone kind of looks like I'm fighting way more off than I could chew. But you give me and Jack Evans 6 months on the proper supplements and diet, and those guys know we're coming, and those guys are ready to battle in Mexico City in front of 150,000 people, I think, in that building, to strap on their boots one more time to challenge that one team that somehow never got a chance to pop their heads in WWE. I would think those two. And on indie teams, I would have to say I would love to have a match with... I think I would probably have to say right now, AR Fox looks pretty good to me, and Sami Callihan, I would love to wrestle him, but I might end up fucking having to go shoot with the guy, because he looks like every single thing he's doing is fucking killing people. So if he's that good of a worker, that he's just a magician, but straight killing guys on shit all the time, it shortens your lifespan. And I don't know if you can do that style continually, and I don't know if you're going to be able to go in and do that style in WWE and get over, because some of the bigger guys that don't feel like getting kicked in the face for real because you haven't quite mastered how to pull it yet, or it's just not possible to pull that move, but you're doing it anyway because indie guys are desperate now. So, I mean, I would think Sami Callihan and AR Fox would be a great match for me, but I think I'd rather even go with someone like, I wrestled Samurai Del Sol here in Calgary, Edmonton, in a little match. But I think maybe me and Jack versus Flip Kendrick and Samurai Del Sol would be a pretty good match. Or maybe me and Jack versus El Generico and Ricochet.
Sure. Hey, so you were definitely down in Mexico, and the matches are out there. But tell us about a night out in Mexico. Tell us about one of the craziest times in Mexico being down there working.
Man, just... well, I guess we were at a show. This is just something small. I guess we were at a show in Nuevo Laredo. And... rumor has it that the cartel guys like to watch wrestling sometimes, and they sit front row, and that they'll be pretty belligerent because they're hoping some of the wrestlers talk shit, and then they'll get whacked out in the back or have to take their mask or something. So a couple guys were sitting front row, and they whispered to us that it was their son's birthday, and that they wanted a big match, and that the Dr. Canteen, he demanded it, that it was something special for him. It was like some anniversary or something, that they wanted us to put on a really good match. And I'm like, well, the ring's fucking filthy, filthy. This is the dirtiest building I think I've been into, and it's a boxing ring. There's no padding in the ring. And the guy says, please, and then he's like, it's my son's birthday. He goes, you wouldn't want to make us mad, would you? And he goes, I'm just kidding. And I was like, I got the point. So Jack says to me, he goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, I'll blade for the match. I said, might as well. He's like, are you sure? It's kind of dirty in here. I said, oh, a little blood on my head. I said, I don't think it'll do shit. We'll kind of just go through the motions here, And because there's blood, I think it'll distract him. No one's expecting blood at a fucking 300 people show in Nuevo Laredo, not really. So, but it turned out, as I'm walking to the ring, the blade's on my fingertip. It slices my whole hand open. So before I get to the ring, I'm dripping blood. I'm like, oh, fuck. So I cover my hand up with some tape. I walk out to the ring. I walk back to the locker room, and I walk back to the ring, and my hand's covered. So I ended up just using my hand basically as the blade, as my head, because it was gushing blood so bad that I just made it look like my head and my eye was bleeding because the blood was just gushing out. So my eye and my head. And we did a match about 45 minutes with my hands cut in half, basically. And Dr. Canteen said, I watched Jericho, I watched Benoit, I watched Conan, Mysterio, all these guys. He has a broken English accent. And he had a tear in his eye. He said, I've never seen two guys do what you two did in here tonight. It was the greatest match I've ever seen. And he took us out after, and he had some, he had some tequila that was 60-year-old tequila or some special, distilled tequila that you couldn't taste it. So Jack and I sat there basically with this kind of doctor who was the head of all of Nuevo Laredo, and a bunch of these seemed like really nice guys. I don't know what exactly they did, but they looked like they were pretty powerful, kind of scary dudes, I'll just say that. And they sat with us, and they said, it's kind of funny that you two look like wild partiers, yet you guys are sitting here sipping on tequila with us, and all of the other guys, or most of them, are doing shit that you couldn't write your mom a letter home about, so to speak.
Right.
And that was the difference of me and Jack. That the crazy party life in Mexico was us usually sitting with the kids or getting 4 or 5 strippers to give me a massage. But I didn't feel like pulling my dick out usually because it honestly didn't sound like a good place because you didn't have a sink to wash your hands. And I didn't feel like licking their pussy, so I didn't think it would be a safe place to get my dick sucked, if you know what I mean. And I'm going to straight up girls or guys that don't like me or whatever. This is perfect ammunition to use as Teddy Hart's a piece of shit. But you got 5 girls that if you pay them to have sex, you got to pay them $150 each. If you pay them for a massage, which is way more work than sex, and they get nothing out of a massage, I'm the only one benefiting from it. It's $10. So I'm like, well, shit, there's 5 of you. It's an hour for a $10 massage. I'll take fucking 5 of you. One can have my foot, the other could have the other foot. Take 2 shoulders and a couple hands, and they all paid. No one's having sex. No one feels like I'm a pig. I'm not pissing off any of the guys because I'm not banging their fucking girlfriends or banging their, what you want to call nationals or something like that. Because if you start banging girls in Japan and you're not Japanese, sometimes they take offense to it.
Oh, they do.
Same thing in Mexico. So I kind of thought to myself, well, shit, I don't need any more heat. The sparkles, the sandals, the outfits, and some of the moves have already got me enough heat. And when you don't do coke and half the other people are partying and drinking their faces off, and Jack and I very, very rarely drink too much, and we never tried anything crazy in our lives besides the pot. And I tried mushrooms once, I think. I'll be the only one to go on the record and say that. But besides those 2 things, I'm pretty clean living. So most of the time in Mexico, the big parties would be like us going to serious people's houses and playing with their kids and hanging out with their kids and playing video games, and Jack showing them a handstand or a backflip and eating meals with them. Because the crazy, crazy parties get you in shit. And you know why half the wrestling world is the way it is? Because guys can't be trusted with large amounts of money, so instead of getting $100 million contracts, we get $100,000 contracts.
Sure.
The wrestlers over the years have done stupid shit with their time and money. So it's not like I'm bitching about the drug testing in WWE. I know why it's there. It's just that I think if the right guys are in the company and it's not coke or meth, it's steroids that are used to help you. And I don't care, again, steroids get an awful, awful, awful rap, because they act like they're the ones that caused the shit. Steroids combined with alcohol, that's not a good recipe. Combined with pills is not a good recipe. Combined with laziness, not a good recipe. Combined with fucking depression, because you're not living your dream even though you look good in the mirror, that's a dangerous recipe. So I think monitored by a doctor, taken properly, a little bit of steroids, which kept most of the guys in most of the movies that were kind of tough guys looking pretty young when they all came back and did the Expendables. But maybe they'd all say they're clean too, but I don't know how many guys tell the truth anymore anyway. So to me, it's like, I'm not going on the record saying that everybody should go do juice. That's not even close to what I'm saying. But I'm saying if you think of a guy like even Brock Lesnar, he looked quite a bit different in the UFC, even though he was training the whole time. So I don't quite know if you could figure out this puzzle, but a guy who's training 6 hours or 10 hours a day, thinking he'd look better than a guy who was traveling 4 days a week in an airplane.
Sure.
I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, that's just
it's
to me like.
clear.
So if he's smaller in the UFC, there's a reason for it. And there's a reason Alistair Overeem somehow mysteriously failed the piss test when I don't think he failed his piss test. It just looked like Cain Velasquez and the other guy, Del Santos, weren't in his league. Because if he kicked through Brock Lesnar in 30 seconds, and Lesnar honestly looked like he didn't have the heart, but it looked like, honestly, to me, in my opinion, again, and this is, I know, something completely off subject, but looked like Brock Lesnar maybe would have given Del Santos or Velasquez a pretty good run if they had let him come back without the problem with his stomach. Because it really looked like in the Frank Mir fight and the other fight, he looked like a beast. And then when he came back after that, I kind of smelt that he didn't have the right push, or that he was getting out of there and he was going to wrestling. So, and then I was mysterious, like Alistair Overeem to me was the only guy that really looked the part and was big and powerful, and yet all of a sudden he fails a steroid test to me. Again, it's like a guy taking something to help himself out, and they can't prove what it was. They have some weird, like, every time I hear about these juice tests, or Nick Diaz, same thing with the pot. It's like, if these sports are real, like MMA is real, then fine. No supplements. But for wrestling, it's like, it's not a real sport, and we have the hardest schedule in the world. So if you can get a doctor who's not afraid of the Chris Benoit thing happening to him to potentially get your prescription for marijuana or a prescription for pot or prescription for steroids,
hey, Teddy,
might be something that's actually supposed to be used to help you.
You know,
fuck you.
You brought up Chris Benoit. I mean, what's your take on that whole event? Obviously, what's your take with Chris Benoit?
I just would think it's a damn shame. I just always think something else could have happened there. I'm not 100% believing that happened. It just sounds too crazy to me. I've seen too many CIS shows where they say one thing and then turns out 10 years down the road something else happened. So I'm not completely throwing Chris Benoit under the bus. I didn't like the way the investigation was presented. I'd never heard about the cameras in Chris Benoit's house, that he had cameras everywhere in his house. I'm wondering what happened to his dog. There's a couple little things like that stuck out to me. But I'm not out there to, like I say, make any conspiracies or point any fingers on anything like that. It sounded like the FBI did their job and the police had their facts straight, and the guy made a big fucking mistake and horrible tragedy. But there's a lot crazier shit that happens in the world, to me, in other countries that we never hear about, really. And thank God we don't see more of it. And Chris Benoit was one of those rare things where you get to see that kind of violence and tragedy happen on our soil here, which is a shock, because North America is like a very nice place to live, and we are generally sheltered from that kind of chaos and craziness. And it was a shame what happened to him. But I don't think he should be cut out of wrestling history for what he did, though. I think people should still mention his name, perhaps, and talk about the good, and mention, obviously, that it was a shame the way it went at the end of the day. But there's a lot of shames at the end of the day. O.J. Simpson was a shame at the end of the day, but you don't not talk about all the good shit he did.
Sure, even Lance Armstrong now, you know, to keep it, you know, in the news now, a guy like Lance Armstrong who inspired so many people coming back and winning those Tour de France's. And just, you know, I think it's hard to say that just because he did steroids to do that it was any less inspirational to the people that he inspired. You know what I mean?
Absolutely ridiculous that half those guys are on steroids, I would bet, if they're even running close to them, and they're not getting caught because they're on something different. I can imagine how many doctors out there have found a derivative to steroids that passed the test and they haven't figured it out yet, if it exists. So back to the Ben Johnson thing with Carl Lewis and all that crazy shit. Ben Johnson pointed it out pretty obvious that if those guys are running like 0.3 seconds slower than me and they're clean, it doesn't sound like they're clean. It just sounds like Ben Johnson trained harder and he beat him, but he got fucked because he was Canadian. kind of thing. And that's like I say, the story with certain things is that some guys can get away with it, and I don't know how they ever walked on TV with veins bulging and arms bulging, and some guy who I don't think exists, the invisible man in the back that's supposed to point out the obvious, that guy's on the juice, never seems to ever do anything about it. So yet, and I say it time and time again, some guys are told to run this race, they give them fucking piss in their gas tank, and they watch their car fucking fail, and then they go, I don't know what happened to that guy. And it's like, well, fuck, you gave him piss and told him to run a race with piss in his gas tank. That wasn't very cool. Can I run the race on what you're running the race on, the private jet and like the limos, or can we treat everybody basically equally for like a year? Just a year, and see if there's a different way of doing things, like an NBA team or an NFL team where every guy is powerful and equal and important. Instead of a bunch of shit guys, which are shit because no one's ever spent any time, energy, or effort really doing anything for them. And the guys that are in there don't feel like passing the torch because they're watching old matches themselves on YouTube still going, look, I'm better than these guys on TV. And it's like, yeah, well, if you don't teach them any of the tricks like a Jedi passing on the fucking magic or the knowledge, then of course you're going to have no Jedi masters coming up in the future.
Hey, Teddy, what's the one thing about yourself that you hear sometimes when you run into people and you're like, that's not me? Like, what's the biggest misunderstanding about Teddy Hart?
I think sometimes that I don't have sympathy for the boys, that I'm an asshole or insensitive. It's like I'm one of the guys that's fighting for the boys the most. It's just there's a lot of guys I look at their eyes and they say they're about the boys, yet they're self-serving pieces of shit that are hoping to kiss that promoter's ass or do something worse to him behind closed doors. And I just don't have the patience to deal with a sport that's supposed to be based on skill, hard work, creativity, coming up with a gimmick, living the gimmick, having cool hair, a nice outfit. All these things, variables, mean nothing. And there's a guy in a red pair of shorts and a white pair of boots with long hair and a greasy fucking tattoo on his arm acting like he's a tough guy wrestler. And it's like she ain't doing nothing. Yet he's convinced the boys because he's in the main event because his buddy owns a promotion that he's a tough guy and he's got some worthless shit belt made by High Spots or something wrapped around his fucking waist like he's a champion. And I got to walk in a building where I'm brought in and I got to look at this guy and kiss his ass and hear him talk to me like we're on the level. I've been doing this for 3 generations, watching some of the most serious athletes in the world, guys that bench 650 pounds, fucking squat 1,000 pounds, slam dunk basketballs from the fucking 3-point line almost kind of shit. Guys that defy gravity. And I got to see some of these guys imposters, posers, and they want that same respect. Respect is given, and it's earned. It's not just given like fucking free soup at a fucking homeless shelter. That's not the way I do it personally. So a lot of these guys are expecting respect because they have that thing wrestler stamped on their fucking forehead because they got a couple blade scars. That doesn't mean you're a wrestler. Flip Kendrick's a wrestler. Watch his videos when he was a kid. The guy was wrestling when he was a kid out in the fucking snow on a trampoline doing shooting star press Frankensteiners off the fucking roof of his building. That's wrestling. John Cena wearing a tank top with a pair of wrestling boots wrapped around his waist. I don't know, man. Doesn't look like wrestling. What looks like wrestling to me is John Cena benching 600 fucking pounds. So because he's the baddest guy in the gym, I say John Cena's a badass wrestler. At least he does one of the 2 things right. And he's been in there so long, trying to be good in there. Like I say, this is a guy who doesn't really give a fuck about getting a job in WWE. I just hope they don't have to drop the bulletproof glass over the ring because they don't want to hear the truth. Because CM Punk dropping pipe bombs is one thing, but me dropping pipe bombs on some, whatever you want to call, radio interview, it sounds like a guy who's trying to blow hot air who hopes someone's listening. But I really, like I say, could give a fuck. I'm only cutting this promo one more time because I haven't cut a promo like this in 5 years where it's like, listen, I hate to bite my tongue, but the only guy 5 years ago I would have called out said nothing. And he proved to me with hard work, CM Punk, hard work, and money in the bank, and buying a building for himself and buying his friend a house. That's a fucking fact, man. That's a guy that walked outside, did what he had to do, and walked away a champion. Because he had the balls to do what he said he was going to do, and all the other guys hid like fucking cowards and made Homicide do the work for him. Not one of those guys did shit. They didn't get in the ring. They didn't book me. They didn't get me in Japan. You want to bring a guy down who's supposed to be a pussy? Let me wrestle in Japan once with some real guys and see if I get hurt or see if I hold my fucking ground. Pretty sure if any place Steve Carino worked, then I could have went in there and worked and easily kept my job if he kept his job. So you check some of the guys that have been in Japan over the last 10 years. the shits. I call them guys that wear diapers. It looks like they have that big diaper on their ass. They haven't done fuck all in the gym, and they've done a little bit of political stuff and grown long hair, if they've even got the long hair left anymore. Those are guys clogging wrestling up. Hopefully they're all gone now almost. It seems like they're almost all gone now, and there's a new group of guys that are mostly doing high spots. Most of the new guys I see are all doing high spots, pretty young, crazy, and they're all doing the new shit, all trying to do the head drops and the fucking flipping pile drivers and the brain busters off the top onto the turnbuckles. It seems like that style, because it was always better, is starting to absolutely take over because it's inevitable. It's like a fucking internet, high-speed internet. It's obviously going to fucking take over slow internet.
Yeah, now, you know, it's definitely apparent, and the couple times that I have been around you and shared lockers with you, I've definitely noticed that about you, that you're big into the whole package. So what do you think when you see a guy like Kevin Steen, whose ability is there, and he's over with the crowd, but Jesus Christ, I mean, he couldn't look further from a wrestler, I mean, right?
I agree, but because Kevin Steen could take a backwards flipping fucking Rana, being a fat pig kind of means something. The only reason, because he's the fat pig and he can do those things, it's like, I guess it works.
But what about his
couldn't
gear?
do the move, I would call him out the same as you would. Yeah. But because he's a fat pig, and I'm not trying to diss Kevin Steen here, I really don't give a shit about Kevin Steen either, though. Pardon me?
I'm definitely not looking for that either. I'm more just pointing out, like, even like with his outfit, I know you spend a lot of time on how you present yourself.
I don't know why guys do that with indie guys. I just think maybe that he's broke, or that he just doesn't give a shit. And like I say, when I see a guy's a fat pig, please, I don't mean the guy's a fat. I have not seen a tougher fucking big guy in the ring than Kevin Steen, dude, in a long time, man. Like, some of those shit he takes in matches he has, phenomenal. 5-star matches out of a guy who I didn't think could fucking run 30 steps without having a heart attack. But there he is, ripping it up. So I just think, yeah, of course, there's a lot of shit. I just think that's maintenance sometimes. The guys are tired. They go home after a show. They've taken 2 airplanes, or they've taken 14 fucking bus rides or whatever. They got no money in their pocket, which is no proof that they actually did anything. They can't go back and show themselves on TV anywhere. They can watch a video on YouTube with a couple friends wrapped around a computer and a fucking, and a beer, and basically try to live through, that motivation. But there's really not a lot of motivation for a guy like Kevin Steen, unless he's in the WWE in the future, to get new gear and do this, and this, because it's really not his character. For me, it is my character, because I'm representing the Hart family, and I kind of want to show guys that, look, this should be something that's pointing out the obvious later, that there is some guys, no matter how good they are, no matter how good they look, just won't get hired because they're just too good. And I'm not trying to say I'm too good. I just want to see a couple other guys do what I did. Sure. And then we'll talk about, like you say, an opinion. And I think the fans never got to make an opinion of Teddy Hart because they were afraid. If any guy in the world could basically get a job for being controversial, then if I was as controversial as I was supposed to be, it would have been an easy thing to get me hired. It was used against me for actually being smart and reliable, not controversial. Controversial means you fucking kill yourself and you do a double moonsault and you break your neck the first time because you're stupid. Controversial means stupid. To me, I couldn't do any more to be helpful than fly down myself to Ring of Honor and be Gabe's friend and be Feinstein's friend. And they asked me to cut a promo in a shoot video where it was a work. So I cut a work shoot promo about Gabe and some comments about him being kind of a fruit, which was a joke. I knew he wasn't. Feinstein might be, or whatever that shit is, but it was a joke. Feinstein never backed me up. He says to Gabe, "Oh, Gabe, Ted's talking shit about you," and he's trying to get heat. Feinstein thinks it's funny that there's heat between me and Gabe, and it's like, why the fuck would you create heat between the booker and me when he was the one giving me the push? I said, I don't understand that, Rob. So when I got to know Rob a bit better, I kind of figured out that Rob was more like a shit disturber, and he liked the drama. And in his position of being boss, he didn't think he was going to lose his job like he did. So he was hoping the drama between me, Gabe, CM Punk, and Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, American Dragon, he was always cool, but he was on their team still. And then I'd bring in my guys, Harry Smith, Jack Evans, TJ Wilson, Tyson Kidd, and Pete Wilson, and some of these other guys that I had in Calgary. We're supposed to have a big fucking feud. And it never happened based on some people taking some shit that I said as a joke and using it like it was a shoot. And this is where I'm just trying to get into a company, and I'm trying to be controversial, and I'm trying to cut a promo like they want me to, because Ring of Honor has that real authentic kind of feel to it. So I'm trying to go in there and do what they asked me to do, fly myself down, and keep a job where they're paying guys $200. My flight's $900 alone, guys. So on top of that, they pay me $4 just to book me. It's the same as booking 9 fucking independent wrestlers from their area. So you got to think about that. I'm not some guy you bring in once. I'm a guy you bring in and you keep bringing me in if you want to bring me in. Otherwise, I won't take the booking the first time. And I got to say, that's where Teddy Hart. You've never seen me since, guys. I did an odd appearance in Jersey All Pro. I showed up in CZW to get some street credibility. I was not allowed in Japan based on a bunch of guys that were kind of in behind the scenes not wanting me to go there. And I wasn't desperate for a job, so I wasn't asking for a job. You know, and that's where people get confused. You asked me about Teddy Hart. The biggest weird thing I could say is I wasn't looking for a job in WWE or TNA. I was hoping that they would call me and ask me to help because I was, in my eyes, considered a good help and a guy that would have definitely worked hard and made some money for them. But because I was overlooked, it created this other opportunity for me, which is creating talent. And hopefully a show that everyone watches and likes, and then maybe I can bring up Jeff Jarrett, and I can bring in Kevin Nash, and I can bring in Conan, and I can bring in Jeff Hardy, and I can bring in Rob Van Dam, and I can bring in some of these guys, and Brooke Hogan, and Cody Hall, and maybe Ted DiBiase Jr. is out of his contract. I could bring these guys up, and I can start having matches, Teddy Hart matches, and building little feuds and storylines and character development and friendship with these guys, and show people that I'm a decent guy and that I love wrestling and that I want to make money with people and make friendship. I don't want to cause waves all the time. I have an opinion. I better have an opinion. It better mean something. I better stand by my opinion because I got to have something that makes me different. Otherwise, you're not going to listen to Teddy Hart's shit. He's just agreeing with everybody else and saying what everybody else is saying. That's not fucking cool. That's basically the same as a yes man. I don't want to be another yes man because I'm secretly scared of not getting hired in WWE. I don't give a fuck. You guys have fucking lost that chance with me, and I lost that chance with you. So hopefully, in your eyes, I'm the fucking one eating shit. In my eyes, a bunch of fans are eating shit that would have watched me there. And Brett, you're going to eat shit later because karma's a son of a bitch. And if you think I'm not your biggest supporter, Brett, and best friend, I am. It's why I wore the pink and black up until I heard you did one thing. And you and I know exactly what that one thing was, and it wasn't cool. And after that, I hold a grudge against Bret Hart. And I say to Bret Hart, he should definitely grow the balls to make sure his son is a properly trained wrestler, because Bret Hart was the best wrestling trainer in the world. So if Bret can pass one more thing on to anybody, I ask him man to man, pass the torch on to your son. He's a good-looking, fucking good kid, and he's still got the energy, and he's still got the juice, and not talking juice. He's still got the energy in his tank.
Want it?
He does want it. He's a good-looking, tall, good-looking, smart kid with a lot of charisma, and I believe in him. I always have believed in him. I've been pretty hard on Blade for the last couple of years because he was supposed to wrestle a couple of years ago, and he didn't, and it cost me basically going to rehab for nothing, hoping for fucking marijuana, which I don't think you really go to rehab for weed, but whatever. I went to rehab for weed, hoping Bret would have then seen that I was ready to go, and I think Bret's big thing is secretively that his son, he wants his son to get trained by me, and until I figure that out, and maybe he doesn't, but maybe if he does, just not get in the way, I can help train his son, and then Bret can do the other things, the small things, the political things, behind the scenes to protect him. And maybe then, in the future, in some fucking crazy dream world, I can challenge Triple H and Shawn Michaels with Bret Hart in my corner and Kevin Nash as the referee and Vince McMahon as the guy watching the match. And Triple H and Shawn Michaels could beat me and Jack 1, 2, 3 in fucking Mexico, but I know for sure it was one of the best matches ever. That's my dream.
That's
not
awesome.
to win a belt or be The Rock or doing a movie. I just want to put 150,000 people in Mexico City because that's the place where no one else wanted me. They took me in. They gave me a place to stay, and they treated me nice. And they remember my face on the street as the guy that always carried the Persian cat and always wore the cross around his neck, no matter how dangerous the area was. I always believed the Mexican people were that smart, and they believed in God that much, because there really wasn't a lot to smile about in Mexico if you didn't live on the fucking beach.
What was
and
it?
we
What
were
was
right
the
in
scariest?
The fucking middle of hell.
What was the scariest time for you in Mexico? Was there a point?
I think honestly every day was scary of ever wondering if I was ever going to get out of this mess and get back to the WWE, or if Mexico is ever going to become the WWE. And AAA has done a phenomenal job, guys. Fucking phenomenal. Conan has done a phenomenal job. Dorian, the mother, the father. I don't even like this. I don't know their names. I don't want to say their name wrong, but I think it's Maricela and Rodan. They've done a phenomenal job keeping AAA alive during this drug war, and they did not let it fail, and they kept the fucking morale of the country alive, basically, because they kept going and doing the shows, And even though it could have been someone that threw a grenade into a pile of kids at one of their shows, there was constant threats of that shit. They kept running, and they battled everybody, and they kept going through all these problems and companies, cartels trying to extort them for money for live shows, and they never stopped. And based on that, I think they finally got some stuff cooking in the States and internationally. And that was my dream, was that Conan and some other company would find some smarts and think me and Jack Evans were worth some money and treat us good, give us a push, and let us show the world that I believe we're some of the best wrestlers to ever bless the fucking planet, and we haven't got our chance yet.
Sure.
And Flip Kendrick and Samurai Del Sol are the two guys I'm bringing with me down there. Those are my two picks.
Oh, there you go. Well, definitely Facebook.com/Heart Legacy Wrestling, and then HeartLegacyWrestling.com is where you can find out more information. Go ahead and give us that card one more time for Friday's pay-per-view.
I'll let Lee give you the card. I don't even know my own card, guys, because I keep changing the fucking thing. It's like playing cards. I have so many guys and matches and mix-ups and matchups that I want to do, and then I still have, my card is still up in the air. I mean, it's set. There could be a couple tweaks, but we just got Jack Evans confirmed like an hour ago because he wasn't in, he was in, he wasn't in, he was in. So Jack Evans is in now. So that's the first time Jack's back in Canada wrestling, I think, in 7 years maybe.
And John Morrison's going to be on the show?
John Morrison's next month. Muda's next month. Liger's next month.
Muda.
Kato and Jado are next month. I believe Ricochet's next month. And I'm not sure who else is in. I think myself, Flip Kendrick, Samurai Del Sol, Conan, Kevin Nash, those are all characters of the show, so they're always on the show. And then, like they say, Morrison's a special guest. Other special guests that I think we're bringing in down the road will be Vampiro, Psychosis, some guys like that from Mexico, Phoenix, Dark Dragon, I think El Blazer from Japan. He's in Mexico now too. Those are just some of the guys you can think of. Rich Swan, AR Fox. He can't get into the country, but we're working on that. I'm trying to think, and yeah, basically that's about the list of guys that I can think of off the top of my head. There's some shout outs to Little Pete and Cam and Hawks, and hopefully you guys will rip it up. This is your chance. I've built a pretty interesting, venue, and you guys have a nice big clean thing to paint on, canvas to paint on, and you got all the paints you need and the nice paint brushes to use. So hopefully you guys will create a masterpiece. It's all I can pray for, and it's out of my control, that part. The only thing is in my control is that I go in the ring and I deliver a match, and the guys I'm in there with deliver a match. And that match is talked about for years, and people watch it, and it's a classic. And the best after that is that nobody gets hurt, and that everyone goes home safe, and no one drives too drunk and fucks themselves up on the way home. Like I say, my thing is that you get to the show and you leave the show and you end up safe at home to talk about the show in the morning.
Sure. Well, you know what? We'd like to have you on every few months to kind of give us an update as to what's going on up there. Can we do something like that?
Sounds great to me, man. I have to run to pick up a bunch of students from the airport. So
awesome, man.
Well, Thank you so much for spending time with us, man.
You're definitely a friend here. Thanks for putting it out there for us.
God bless you, Vito.
All right, take it easy. Teddy Hart in the rotation, living up to the hype, baby.
1 hour with Teddy Hart.
That was awesome. That was what we had hoped for, man. He was on fire,
and that's why I didn't want to advertise it, because if he didn't come through, I think our dicks would have been in the dirt.
Right, we would have looked like douchebags.
But I mean, honestly, at this point, let's just run to this break because I need to get these headphones off. My head's on fire.
Yeah, no problem. We'll be back here on In the Rotation.
This break's brought to you by Vito Tabaselli.
I was raised a Catholic. That's why I don't take religion that seriously. You're never going to see a Catholic suicide bomber, all right? Because none of us believe in it that much. Catholicism is just a fuck it, you never know religion. Like, it might be real, whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure. Catholic suicide bombers would starve to death just standing in front of each other going, you go first. How do I know you're going to go? Confession is the only thing that keeps Catholics alive. Confession is the craziest fucking thing ever. That exists along with the internet at the same time. That's hilarious. I personally think that confession was probably just someone's idea of a sick joke. Just one dude came up with it, then he died, and he just forgot to tell everybody he was only fucking around. He probably died laughing. He probably couldn't believe they were listening to him. Think about the idea of confession. Again, I'm not saying there's no Jesus. I'm not saying there's no God. I'm not saying I'm smarter than you. I'm not saying anything crazy. I'm saying this is confession. You take a guy who's not allowed to masturbate or have sex ever. Then you make him wear a costume, and then he has to sit in a dark booth and listen to fuck stories whispered through a hole in the wall. I'm pretty sure God would have a better plan than that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything crazy. Just people are full of shit, and that seems a little silly. Why is that so controversial? Why is religion still so fucking respected? It's so bizarre. I was high as giraffe pussy watching the History Channel, and I got so fucking confused. And not just because I was so high that I thought I was going to be the first guy to die from it, because I really did. For like 5 minutes, I thought I was going to fuck up the cause. But because they had a documentary on, it was In Search of Noah's Ark. Like a real documentary with real dudes and cameras. And I'm like, how about you go looking for the snuffleupagus while you're at it? I pulled the sheets up. I was scared. On the way back, will you go to Whoville and get me some green eggs and ham? You fucking gullible pricks. Oh, they went to Whoville. Again, I'm not saying there's no Jesus. I'm not saying anything. But people are full of shit, and that story sucks. Why is that one still around? If you tell the story of Noah and the Ark to like an 8-year-old retarded boy, he's gonna have some questions. I mean, even if you're really good at telling stories, that story just sucks. Even if you're good at it, you sit him down. Well, Bobby, once upon a time, God was angry at all the people in the world. And instead of telling them what they were doing wrong and offering guidance, he decided to go ahead and drown everyone. He only told one man, a random man named Noah. He wasn't a special man. In fact, he was 600 years old and a drunk. Anyway, God told Noah to build a great boat, and he and his family would be the only people to survive the flood. Because apparently, all the other people with boats, their ship didn't work. Noah magically got 2 of each animal to come to him on foot from all over the world. And they willingly boarded the boat and got into cages. And they sailed away for 40 days and 40 nights. And civilization began anew. 8-year-old retarded boy's gonna go, oh. There's a lot of holes in that story. Oh, let me sit down for a moment. First of all, how big is this fucking boat? Didn't you tell me there's 1 million animals all on one boat? One guy built this boat? Where did he get all the wood? 600 years seem a little old for a fella to be taking on a project of this magnitude. The animals come on foot. Is the earth even connected like that? What did the animals eat when they were on that boat for 40 days? Since animals like to eat other animals! I'm not that retarded! If all people come from Noah, Noah's a white guy, where do all the black people come from? What did the animals eat when they got off the boat? I'm just kidding, it's all real. It's all real. There's a happy place we all get to go to, and harps and shit. It's gonna fucking rule. I'm just making shit up. I'll do what you do if you do what I do. Just look through the telescope. Mother little reaper, look through that telescope. That's too scary for most people.
It was fucked up from the start. Singing, whoa, 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 whoa. I lose the control of my head and I feel that it's time to get crazy. soundtrack to my life. I lose the control of my head and I feel that it's time to get crazy. Don't say I can't feel and it's time to get crazy. I'm losing my head a bit. Tell me if you see it, just like I do. I won't take it cause I'm done with it. Hungry for all the voices in my head again. I wanna let them in, so let it be known. Set it in stone and now you follow the do-overs coming home. No one can tell me any different. If you're alone, keep your distance. I'm about just listen to me tick tock, click, click, boom, sick addiction. No one can tell me any different. If you're alone, keep your distance. I'm about just listen to me tick tock, click, click, boom, sick addiction. No one can tell me any different. If you're alone, keep.
And we are back here on In the Rotation live on Spreaker.com. You're listening to us live. It's live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time, right here on Spreaker.com. Search ITR Live. You can also hear us every Wednesday at both noon and 10 p.m. Central Time on the Ripped Radio Network, ripradionetwork.com. You can also check it out on the TuneIn Radio app on all smartphones. Just search Ripped Radio. You can also hear us on Wednesdays on the Party Animal Radio Network, partyanimalradio.com. And, of course, we are sponsored by two of the greatest sponsors on planet Earth, Death Grip Clothing. Check them out at deathgripclothing.com. Also, Two Fat Guys Barbecue Sauces. I love twofatguys.com. Definitely support them. Definitely spread the word. Definitely spread the word about Teddy Hart, because that motherfucker was on fire. And gave you some great shit, like he's mad at Bret Hart.
Yeah, I mean, just overall in general, you know, it doesn't even always sound like he's mad in some areas. It just seems like this is going to be his way to come back, and he's going to kind of show people a different side of him. I heard a little bit of a different Teddy Hart.
A humbled Teddy Hart.
A humbled Teddy Hart, yeah. I'm excited. I'm asking you, who's singing this song? Do you know?
No, I don't.
This is what I wanted to point out to people. This is Twisted. And if
it sounded like something from Psychopath.
But if I would have told you ahead of time, you know, this is Twisted, you may have been like, nah, not you. I'm saying people in general. They hear Psychopathic, but then you hear it and you go, wow, this is kind of a cool song. I've never heard this before.
It's definitely a different style for them.
This is a lot of the stuff that they do and that they were doing when people were saying that they're leaving Psychopathic because they do different they don't do the shout-outs, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that you could tell that there's a certain sound that I knew it was something from the Juggalo world, but I didn't know exactly who it was.
Interesting.
But, Loaded show tonight. Billy Rock was in, talking about wrestling his heart in the School of Rock Wrestling Academy. We had a nice talk with Evan Ginsberg. We found out that Hulk Hogan was full of shit about the wrestler and getting offered the part.
Well, arguably he did say
as far
that,
as he knows.
As far as he knows.
And it sounds like when he's with Nick Cage and in the conversations about who's going to be doing what, Necro Butcher this and that, he certainly was on the inside enough where,
put it this way,
if it was true,
knowing the wrestling business, even like if you're outside the wrestling business, you mark out the Hulk Hogan, right? Like it just happened. So
sure.
Let's say he knew nothing about it and Evan was just around really strong during the making of the movie. Let's just fabricate something. If we know that for a fact, you know, it would have came up, hey, you know, Hogan almost played, like it would come up in conversation at some point. We had to meet with Jimmy Hart first, and he was all, there would have been.
Jimmy had to read the script first.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it gets him mileage. The thing with Hogan, man, it's just say it, and enough people will believe it, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Right. Because
he thinks the whole world's at work.
Stern was all like, oh, no way, you turned that down.
The deal with him is, as long as everybody in his inner circle understands the Iggy, he doesn't give a fuck.
If anybody else is in on it.
It's his saying, if they're not nipping on your heels, you're just not relevant.
It's true.
It's so true. But I hate to rush it along, man. We have
No, and this is what we got segueing along. Sometimes news hits really, really close to home, and you found that out.
This is the closest news
that has ever hit home for you.
Let me read just for a second. Yeah, I mean, really think about it. My buddy killed himself when we were in high school, but that wasn't like a news story. It was a different time. Probably today it would have been.
Right. Maybe this is probably the closest you've ever come to having
This
something
could have
really
been my wife.
That's what I
Put it
held
this
off
way.
on saying this.
I know. This could have been my
very
wife.
well could have been your wife that this happened to. So let's set up the story. You were living in Tinley Park in an apartment complex.
I lived there for almost a year.
Yes. And I remember distinctly, I mean, I've spent countless nights on that couch.
Well, and it was at the time that, obviously because you had to drive so far, that you did end up staying there. And It was the multiple night deal.
And, we many nights of watching ridiculously on mushrooms and laughing our ass off.
Lots of mushrooms, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, but honestly, I would say that batch, that mysteriously ended up where I lived somehow. It just mysteriously appeared
like a fungus. It
just grew somewhere,
Right.
and I think we produced about 5 ounces, and we ate the shit out of those things.
The shit out of them, and they were good.
They were good. And what's weird about mushrooms, I will say this: when you eat them over and over and over again, and you start doing them over time, they're not. You can still roll your balls off. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But it's different. It's much more milder and controllable. And
You know what you're
chillable.
in for. The first time, you don't know what you're in for.
It's
And then
not
you
the
end up
first time. I'm saying when you do it multiple times, week after week. Like we were doing it because it was Saturday. Fuck it, it's Saturday. You know what I mean? Like, and when you start doing it like that,
We don't got anything better to do.
Nah, it's just different. Concerts, weddings.
Yeah,
K5.
Yeah, definitely. So
Anyways.
this week, news breaks that a former fire department official has been accused of rape,
Breaking and entering,
attempted
forceful
murder,
rape, attempted murder.
all in your building, in the apartment that you lived in, less than a year ago.
So I'll explain it. I moved like January 1st, 2012, let's say. It was somewhere between, right after the new year.
Mm-hmm.
We moved where we're living now. From Tinley, so McHenry, far away. Anyways, nevertheless, it's your standard. You walk in the middle. There's 2 places on the bottom, one to the right, one to the left, 2 places in the second floor, 2 places on the third floor. So
Right,
it's
and
six,
the staircase runs right.
it's
through
just
the middle.
right in the middle. It's your stand, and then there's the everyone had 1 car garage, super small little huts behind the place. That was the deal. So we were always fighting for spaces up front. And the one thing I always remember about this guy, there's 2 spots like measured out for like 1 regular size SUV and 1 regular size car. If they both understood the distance, you could come into any side and fit everybody.
Right.
He had his own schedule. This guy had a great job. That's why I can't believe he had to really be crazy, because he gave up literally the easiest life. Now, don't get me wrong, being a fireman, this guy was home every day. I mean, but then all of a sudden you wouldn't see him for 3 or 4 days. So I think that's when he's at the station. So I'm not, all I can talk about is the guy lived right above me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like a rude, grumpy guy, but he would always park in the middle. You know what I mean? So you couldn't get
He was
both
the
cars.
dick.
He was a dick, But then after a while, I think he became cool with us because, he had seen that I was kind of a dick too. And it was I didn't pick up my dog shit. I was that kind of guy. I'm that neighbor.
Right.
Or I do the fake where you go down with the bag and pretend to pick it up, but you come up empty-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Rocker, we've all done it.
Right.
We sell the place. We get out. We move here, and it's her family's place. Okay, so they sell to this girl now. This girl, I never knew this till recently, so I don't know the girl's name. I know nothing about this girl.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the bottom unit. It's it's your standard. It's apartment, just a little bit bigger. Like a kitchen's like a bigger kitchen. Each room just like a little bit bigger. It's kind of the best way to describe it. And it's all carpet, but the kitchen is like that tile, fake tile,
right?
Laminate shit. From what I understand now, the report is that he chased her in. He broke in. Now, mind you, he's apartment above her, and everyone knows he's a fireman.
No. According to the report, she's sleeping on the couch. She wakes up and he's standing over her with a mask on.
Okay, see, so I'm just gonna play the official story here. Because
this is from the Channel 9 News on the story. This is the actual report that can give you all the details. It includes the actual 911 call, and the most scary part is the part at the end. I'll just put it that way.
The part at the end.
The part at the end when
Former Chicago Ridge firefighter Gary Swears is accused of carrying out that horrific attack. WGN's Julian Cruz listened to that tape. He joins us now with that story. Oh, it was just horrible to listen to.
Micah, it really is. It's heart-wrenching to listen to. You can feel the terror in the victim's voice as she talks to 911 dispatchers at 2 o'clock Saturday morning. Prosecutors say it was Gary Swears, at the time a Chicago Ridge firefighter, who attacked his neighbor. He's charged with attempted murder, home invasion, and attempted criminal sexual assault.
Hi, the lady downstairs from us just came up and she's saying somebody tried to rape her.
You can hear her terrified voice in the background. The victim, brutalized, investigators say, at the hands of this man, Gary Swears, a Chicago Ridge firefighter who lived in the same building on the 8100 block of 168th Place.
I was sleeping on the couch. I woke up and somebody was there. He had a mask on. He smelled like liquor.
Struggling to control her emotions, the victim gives dispatchers the details, how a masked intruder wearing black clothing held a knife to her throat, threatening to kill her, bashing her head against the floor.
He slammed my head on the floor. Is that anything good? Like several times. And there's a big bump on my head.
The intruder held his hand over her mouth, the victim told detectives, dragging her into the kitchen. But before he could complete the assault, the firefighter fled out the apartment door. When the investigation quickly led to Swears, prosecutors say he confessed to the crime, telling police that he realized during the attack that what he was doing was wrong. In the minutes before police arrived, Swears apparently removed his mask and black clothing and went to the victim, who was on the phone talking to 911.
Oh, Gary, I went up to you, but you weren't there. You were gone. You came home. What happened? Somebody tried to rape me.
Investigators say
that's the most disturbing, fucked up part of the whole thing, is that he walks in afterwards and like,
that's his voice at the end. He's talking to her.
Right. He comes back in the house.
Like, I just got home. What happened?
What happened? You fucking scumbag.
I'm just missing. How did they eventually catch him? They said it led back to him, so he admitted it. But what was the what? What was the last part?
Yeah, it would be interesting.
And
to find
I
out.
searched around and I can't seem to find that. Is that just being held because they're
maybe whatever
into
it
what
is?
the
I mean,
deal
there's
is?
Fingerprints or something.
But I'll tell you what, man. That's my apartment. That's my condo. That's
that. I mean, it was
so
this
scary.
close to
And
being your
she
wife.
first told me about it, and I went the next day. Like they say it didn't hit you. It didn't hit me, and then like I went the next day. I was like, what?
You live there.
Our place, like what?
Right.
And then I started thinking about the locks and how there was definitely separation of the door, and it's probably really easy to break in there. I mean, I'm not even joking, man. Now I'm piecing. I know the crime scene. I live there. It's fucking weird. Like, tell me you know a crime scene.
No, yeah, I do now. Yeah,
but you do now, right?
Yeah.
It's fucking weird.
It's unbelievable.
And I'll tell you, man, we got out of there at the right time. I hate to say it because it was obviously a boiling point for him. Because even though he said, I kind of knew in the middle of it. Normally you say that's just bullshit. But a guy in his position, once the rage is there and it maybe went too long, I could see it going,
what the fuck did I just do? And then he just bails.
Yeah. Again, I don't know the story, and I'm not making any excuses. I'm just trying to. I'm hearing the story, and I'm trying to just.
He must have slipped up somewhere along the way to have been named and have it come back to him that quickly.
What it is, there's two ways into my place. Remember, from the back entrance and the front door. Right. You see on the news all the time.
Where you got to buzz in.
You got to buzz in, but not if you're leaving.
Right.
I'm saying like she should. What's weird is she didn't run out and leave. She ran out and went upstairs to the safe haven of the guy who was raping her.
She says that's where she went first.
I know. That's because like the idea is if she would have ran out of her place, she could have just ran out.
Right. From your place, you're right next to the front door.
Run right out.
But she was gonna go up to his apartment
because she's of the fire department.
Right, he's a fire official. He's an official guy that's gonna help her. He's the hero.
What a fucking scumbag!
Turns out he's the fucking guy in the mask that smells like liquor.
What a scumbag!
Unbelievable. That is
gross. I literally thought about it the next day, man. I didn't thank God like people do. I was just thankful that we got the hell out of there.
Right,
and it was one of those things where I went, man, oh my God. And what if we had the baby?
Right.
I mean, just think about the whole. I mean, it would. Oh my God.
Right.
It would have changed our entire lives.
Of course.
Even if the littlest damage was done, it would have changed our entire lives.
Mm-hmm. Without question.
Imagine your girl gets raped and then you can't touch her no more because it's not that she doesn't love you or want to be with you, but the idea of any kind of intercourse or any kind of sexual anything fucking drops her out.
Right. And takes her to exactly. She can't emotionally handle it. Right.
Unbelievable.
I couldn't imagine. Or imagine he breaks in your home and now you've got to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm not joking. The guy was a little shorter than I was. I'd have killed this guy. And This is the difference between me and a lot of other people, and why we were able to be 175 pounds and be taken legitimately is because we are tough, man, and we can stand there, and we're not. I'll never stand there and go, "Hey, you want to fight? No, come on, dude, let's fight. Hey, fuck you, let's fight." By the any minute, I'm punching you. We just punch. We just fight. There's not gonna be
Right. Ask questions later.
Yeah, we don't throw it out there, but the minute I know that, oh no, it's the tipping point. Now it's too late. It's the next step. That's the difference between me and a lot of other guys, and that's why I said we were able to be so small and be taken seriously as guys that could fucking throw down because we did.
Right.
That's the difference.
Yeah. You would have killed the guy.
I'd have killed him, and I'm not even joking. Like, let's say I subdued him and he stopped. I would have killed him.
You would have still killed him.
I would have, with my hand, I would have choked him to death.
Yeah, and you'd have every right to do that.
And you know what it is, man? Or I'd find something and I'd stab him. I would do it. I'd be like one of those like 60 stab wounds. Dick was cut off and put in his mouth. I'd have rage. It's I've been broken into, weird shit like that, and I felt rage. But imagine your wife being fucked, or
he's got a knife to her throat. And saying he's gonna kill her, and he's bashing her head against the floor.
So let's just paint the picture. My wife's physically now. Okay, that's a whole different level. I'm saying catch him before he's touched.
Right.
You're telling me I walk in and she's getting her head bashed on the ground.
Right. Exactly. So now your wife falls asleep on the couch.
The same story is gonna happen.
Yeah. The way your apartment's set up, she falls asleep on the couch. You go to bed for the night.
Which happens,
right.
which is very realistic.
Yeah, at 2:00 in the morning, all of a sudden you hear some fucking loud noises out in the living room.
Oh my god!
You open your door to look and look out to see this guy in a fucking black mask.
I wouldn't see nothing because they'd be in the kitchen. Remember, it's just a hallway. I would just hear it.
No, he says now. According to the story, he bashes her head on the floor, then drags her in the kitchen.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm saying by the time he got in the kitchen,
she wakes up with a knife to her throat. Okay. He grabs her off the couch onto the ground and starts fucking slamming her head down. Picks her up, drags her into the fucking kitchen. In the kitchen is when he realizes what the fuck's going on, and he stops and runs.
Well, what's weird is my dogs would be going crazy.
That too, right?
That's another element that you got to add to the story. That would be chaos.
Correct.
It would just be like a total.
He would never even have attempted it because the dogs would have been too loud.
He's a drunk motherfucker out
or
to fuck.
That's true too.
We're saying this. We're
right.
living there right now. We're painting the worst possible scenario ever in our lives at this point.
Right.
I come around the corner. I swear to you. And I would just attack. I'm not saying I would go for this, right? It would be one of those things.
Tackle him and
I would,
on.
I would get him. Yeah, I would kick him in the balls. I'm not even joking. Like I'm to the one. If I'm standing in front of you, I'm not going to so much punch you in the face as I'm going to kick your knee straight or at you. I'm going to stop you first, and then I'm going to.
Right.
And now it's on.
Honestly, no joking. I could picture you just on top of the guy's chest, just pounding his fucking face till he stops breathing.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it would be. And it like now you're looking at what element, how crazy am I going to get? First off, if I see her head's fucked up, which obviously from this point it's fucked up and there's blood, I'm eyes like I'm touching it, I'm pushing down on his eyes. He's not dead. He's just gonna he's
gonna hurt.
Because I say he's a little guy. He's almost like the neighbor. Seinfeld, the Jewy guy.
Okay, Jason Alexander.
Let's say him, only not quite as doughy, but pretty close.
Okay.
Same age, same kind of dude. That's why I would joke like, how is he even a fireman? Like he doesn't do shit. I mean, like, he doesn't look athletic. He doesn't look like he can tie his own shoes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just an older guy.
He's not going to be able to defend himself. Plus, if he's drunk,
I'd have killed him. I'm not even joking. I'd have fucking killed him. It's so crazy to think about. And I never put myself in like, what would you do in this crime situation?
Mm-hmm.
But this is what's
but you
in
could
my
have.
place.
Yeah, you could have. You could put yourself in this situation. Yeah.
I'd have fucking dragged the guy right on out, and it would have been lights out, and I would have had a clean kill.
Yeah,
I would have had clean, and I wouldn't listen. I'd wake up tomorrow and I'd have my head held high. I wouldn't be like, oh my god, I took a man's life. No way, dude. You fucking get that, and that's what you get when you come anywhere near that, and that's what you should get. Justice.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Episode 23 is in the books, man. Indiana
Loaded.
Man. Holy shit.
Indiana Man.
Holy shit. Tell your friends, folks. Seriously, spread this around. People need to know about Teddy Hart. We'll see you next time here on In the Rotation.
Now, before I finish, let me just say, I did not come here to show out, did not come here to impress you, because to tell you the truth, when I leave here, I'm gone, and I don't care what you think about me, but just remember, when it hits the fan, brother, whether it's next year, 10 years, 20 years from now, you'll never be able to say that these brothers lied to you, Jack.
nebulas and